Austin, broadcasting worldwide. I'm your host, Alex Jones. Thank you for joining us today. Wow, a lot to cover as usual, and then some. It's already Thursday, the 9th day of March 2017. We'll be here for the next 4 hours. A lot of special guests as well, and Jon Rappoport coming up. Just look at these headlines from Infowars.com, but also DrudgeReport.com. And most of this is from the establishment themselves. It's not like we're putting it through some filter. The Pope slams evil populism and says nation states are evil. Well, he said that before. Last year he said that it disgusted him to hear about Christian roots in Europe and that basically Islam should replace it. He really said that. Because the globalists have made this deal with the billion-plus Muslims bordering Europe to end Western civilization, using Islam as a sabotage, a cultural virus program. Stephen Hawking's come out and called for world government. Oh, yes, to keep us safe. But, of course, it's the people pushing world government, the actual ones pushing us towards total destruction. That's the problem, isn't it, Hawking? He goes on to pretty much admit that. Then we've got Facebook admitting, oh, what we're really all about is predicting the future and controlling the future by manipulating mass movements. Yeah, you want self-driving cars that the CIA can hack and kill people with, but you also want self-driving humanity manipulated by stimuli, mind control. I told you 10 years ago that Google and Facebook hadn't even come out yet, were all about steering the future because, well, I was actually more than 10 years ago, but I've been harping on it for 10 years. I was told 18 years ago by multiple NSA whistleblowers face-to-face, like something out of a movie where you're in a parking garage or at a rodeo. They're like, listen to me, it's about controlling the future, manipulating with data, and they've almost got it together. And once they've got that, it's the end of free will. That's the plan. It's a total takeover. And they plan to merge the machines, Alex, and you've got to tell everybody. And then it's true. Eric Schmidt, big data is so powerful, nation states will fight over it. Business Insider. It's all coming up today. But Pope Francis issues warning about Donald Trump. Populism is evil. He sits there in the middle of Italy and that burgeoning populist country with all their inventions and style and the rest of it, bitching about the West constantly. What a scumbag. But again, they've made the calculations. He's behind 200-foot walls at the Vatican. Some are even bigger. The average is 50 feet. He's not taking any refugees in, but he wants you to because he can use the third world as a giant weapon system. Let's go to DrudgeReport.com. Ramos, you know, the big international TV star of Latin America. Oh, yeah, mainstream media in the U.S. doesn't have any viewers. This guy's got hundreds of millions of viewers. Ramos, whites will become minority. This is our country. What an incredibly racist statement, but it's also an attempt to defraud anyone that is, quote, Hispanic from ever having part in the American dream. They want to keep you under third world control. And I love how Tucker Carlson comes back. He goes, dude, you're whiter than I am. Oh, yeah, you go to Latin America, every country, the ruling class, unless it's Venezuela, are like 6'4" white guys. In fact, go look at photos of the Mexican Congress. It looks whiter than someplace in West Texas. It's such a racist culture against anybody with color in Latin America. They never got out of colonialism. Super racist towards black people. But again, Americans are ignorant culturally, no matter what color we are, and we're just so stupid. I mean, it's like when Obama landed in Cuba, they were calling him, you know, the black man and the blackbird and the Mayada and all this horrible racist crap, because that's what Cuba's like. Super race-based. I mean, the whole world's tribal like this, and Ramos is just pushing race-based garbage. The guy's a Hispanic KKK member, in my view. We'll be back. It's Thursday, or in the Old English, the day of Thor. Already the 9th of March, 2017. I'm Alex Jones, your host, coming to you from the Lone Star State, and I'm right smack dab in the physical, but also the cultural heart of America. Thank you so much for joining us. We're not coming to you from New York or L.A. or D.C., great places, great people, but that's where the elites are, where Trump has identified the problems are coming from. We're right here in the heartland, battling to restore the republic, but broadcasting worldwide with giant audiences from Japan to Russia to the UK to South Africa to Latin America to the Pacific, you name it. I can be in Central America or I can be in Hawaii, and I get mobbed by listeners and viewers. And I don't say that to act powerful. It's exciting to know that freedom is so incredibly popular. Now, drudgereport.com, if you're a radio listener, everybody knows what it is. Pretty much it's the biggest website in the world, biggest news site in the world, hands down. Just knows how to paint a picture with a palette of mainstream news, government news, press releases, alternative news, new media, photos, documents, press releases, arrest warrants, you name it. And it says it all. Bowling for votes. How Trump is charming Congress, even working when he plays golf maybe once every 2 weeks when he has a world leader visit him. How he's up even late at night with folks inside the White House at the bowling alley that the White House has, the Harry S. Truman bowling alley. He's taking action, and then beneath it, Wiki to provide tech firms access to CIA hacking details. That's right, so they can know how to fix their systems from the illegal hacking that the rogue, out-of-control Central Intelligence Agency's up to. And then we've also got sentiment about economy strongest in 16 years. Pope slams evil populism. Yes, he actually says having a country is evil. Well, that's what Glenn Beck said 2 weeks ago on CNN. He said, it's horrible, it's dangerous, this nationalism. Just having a country now is politically incorrect. And then right below it, you've got I mean, if I was a Hollywood producer and I was making House of a Thousand Corpses or Devil's Rejects or, you know, some other powerful Rob Zombie movie, I would go get Hillary to kind of be the lady that runs the mortuary. Not just her actions and stealing $2 billion from the Haitians and everything else, but the way she looks. We get a close-up of that. I mean, just look at it. She looks like a ghoul. And in every photo you look at her, she looks more and more ghoulish and evil. But then the book cover actually matches what's inside. Gender swap experiment shows Hillary even less likable as a man. Tell me something I don't know. Tell me something I wasn't aware of. Oh, and then over here on the right-hand side, the really big news, or the left-hand side of Drudge, Trump sends B-52s to South Korea. We're going to get to that in a moment with nuclear bombs. And look at this. Nuns go to war with Katy Perry over witchcraft. Sold souls to the devil, she says. And it goes on from there. Now, let's talk about this together. Every time I talk about Katy Perry or Lady Gaga doing a satanic ritual on TV, they have national news headlines saying, I'm insane. I'm making up that witchcraft is taking place. Whether you believe in the devil or you believe in the occult or whether you have a Christian view, whatever, this is going on. And when you watch the Super Bowl events or you watch the MTV events or you watch the Grammys or the Emmys, they are chock full of everything from classical Satanism, black magic, to Egyptian occultic stuff. It just runs the gamut. I've covered Skull and Bones. I'm the only person to ever sneak into Bohemian Grove and actually get out with the footage without being arrested or later set up and indicted by the grace of God. Oh, yeah, they've really put people in prison that have snuck in there. Not for that. They go set you up. I mean, it's pretty hardcore. But the point is we've been protected by God. I don't believe I know. And so Katy Perry and all these people are into witchcraft. You know, I know Katy Perry's dad. He's a preacher. He's talked about it. Katy Perry used to listen to the show. Katy Perry is fully aware of what she's doing and what she's up to, and that you supposedly get power in this world if you tip your hat to the devil, if you kiss the ring. I guess Pope Francis would be the greatest incarnation of Satan I could ever imagine. Christianity's bad. Nationalism's bad. Christian roots of Europe's bad. I mean, whoa. Thank you for being honest, Mephistopheles, Beelzebub, Baphomet, Satan, the great serpent, the devil, the morning star. Pope Francis is the new name of the devil. But even 2 weeks ago, it was on CNN, it was all over the newspapers, it was all over Rolling Stone, all these rock stars and music stars were all saying, we're going to do black magic to kill Trump and turn him to ashes and all this other made-up crap. And then they had right-wing watch and stuff going, Jones is insane. He believes that they're announcing this. See, they play these games. So they want to make you feel powerless. They want to throw stuff out, but also deny it, try to make you just give up. It's not going to work. They're so arrogant and so delusional, they tried to sell a doddering, corrupt, evil woman that almost everyone hated in the election. They tried to steal it. They did steal at least 5 states, tried to steal 6 others. The poll numbers were Trump was winning by 15 points. In real scientific polls. I told you that. You saw it happen. But they still tried to steal it. But it was such a defeat, such a massive rejection that they had to back off for a while and thought, we'll just discredit this populist movement, this nationalist movement by demonizing Trump. Oh, and Le Pen and everybody else and Wilders, you can't do it. So when I get up here and say, we're winning, you can't win, the tide of globalism's going out, your system's in deep trouble. It's been identified. You're not operating in the shadows anymore. Your mind trick of saying corporate world government, tax-exempt, diplomatically immune groups, your trick of saying that doesn't exist is over. So now that the Financial Times of London and the New York Times and every other major globalist publication every day says, world government's in crisis, our program's in trouble, what do we do? And they have open discussions in more elite publications like Atlantic Monthly and places. Do we plunge the economy and have economic war with the population to make them submit? Or do we go to more oppressive algorithms and systems of control on the web to shut them down? Or do we, and the answer is, don't go with the economic warfare. They've already tried to plunge the economy. That didn't work. So now they're saying, we'll just go with shutting the free internet off as we know it. And so now it's basically moving at warp speed. Normal censorship creeps in over the years. Every week, they're ratcheting down Facebook, Twitter, Google, YouTube, all the major platforms. It's happening. I have a stack of news today. I mean, there are articles that Facebook won't let you share because there's new intelligence committee reports and the FBI's come out and said there's no evidence of anything Russian in the election. And we try to share that, it won't let us. Or it'll block you from sharing it. Not because it's fake news, but because it's credible, documented news. They wouldn't let us share the Rand Paul interview a few days ago when the senator came on. Facebook deleted that. They wouldn't let us share one with the former CIA section chief saying that, no, I've talked to my colleagues, they were ordered to target Trump and the populist. The globalists think you're so dumb, though. They're in major newspapers saying, we're targeting populism, we're targeting the nation state, we're targeting populations that don't want to be under our globalism. I mean, I've seen, let me not exaggerate, 300 articles the last few months from the Washington Post, the Financial Times, you've all seen them. Globalism in crisis. How do we stop it? Well, we just shut down the free speech of the people, and we fund ethnic warfare. And we fund balkanization so the peoples of the nations never come together and say, we all want private property, we all want low taxes, we all want to be able to live in peace without the so-called social engineer liberals telling us we're all multicultural and then teaching us how to fight with each other, and having George Ramos come out on the television network he's on that broadcasts all over Latin America. I was looking at that guy has over 100 million viewers a week conservatively. RMSM's dead. Their top show's a couple millions. This guy is a superstar. And he's super nasty, and he's there to make sure the 780 million people in Latin America stay peasants, peons, in his words. Making sure you sit there and you never get a chance at the free market. You never get a chance at your own company. You never get a chance at the American dream. Make sure that American dream is run into the ground, just like WikiLeaks says. The Democrats are in there going, we got to keep our constituents poor and desperate and in the dark. And it's not working, so what do? Pull those up. Keep people in the dark. Keep them desperate. We've got to use cultural war. And enter Jorge Ramos. Skip this break. And I'm going to hit this first because he goes on Tucker Carlson's show And Carlson is breaking down the facts, and Ramos is like, listen, you're not going to control your borders. This is our country, Hispanics' country. Well, wait a minute. Mexico has a diverse population, but it's mainly, quote, people that you would say are, I guess it goes back to Hispaniola, the island of Hispaniola, Spanish, a mixture of cultures, colonialism. I mean, he probably doesn't even know the whole background of this stuff. But just, okay, so you represent Hispanics. No, you represent the white elites that still control Latin America. That's who you represent. The most controlled, centralized place in the world, other than China or North Korea, with a class system of elites, is Mexico. Mexico has massive wealth, some of the biggest groups of billionaires in the world, and they're expert at making sure their people don't ever get enough money to set up their own system. It's all gamed to keep people poor, and that's what the colonial and feudal system is. That's what it is. And America was about breaking that. Doesn't mean we have a perfect history, because we were coming out of all that. But George Ramos, whites will become a minority. This is our country. Oh, so see, it's racially based, see? It's not a culture or an idea of freedom and Second Amendment and God or the right not to believe in God. It's a nation of Hispanics, but Mexico's Hispanic and has a border. Guatemala's Hispanic and has a border. And every other country is, quote, Hispanic. Most folks down there say, no, we're just Latin. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is that he's saying we're creating a racial component and saying there's no borders allowed in North America, but only at the border of southern North America, Mexico. And so we're going to organize racially and then demand things, which is government handouts, but only enough to keep you subservient and under control. Look how good it did for the black folks that had a lower level of illegitimacy in the 1940s than anybody else in this country, now almost 90%. That was the Great Society. And LBJ's in the letters saying horrible racist things. I'm gonna have those N-words voting Democratic for 100 years. They're going back on the plantation and they don't even know it. And Jorge Ramos wants to sit there and say whites are a minority because we were America and opened up the borders and let everybody in. And then there's the bait and switch with the Democrats flipping it back, saying, oh, it's racial now. It's all going to be race-based, which will then make white people go into their race-based system again, like the ruling class in Mexico did 200 years ago, before Mexico even existed. When it was a vassal of Spain and then the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. Yeah, I know the history. How many Mexicans know their own history? How many Americans know? See, I happen to actually know all this. It's so interesting. And so here's this guy saying to Latin America, oh, and what do the universities teach in Chicano and Hispanic studies? That communism's the answer and Che Guevara's the answer, and that you could never rebel and have free market in your own property, your own ranch. You can never be part of the middle class or the upper class. No, you have to organize yourself in your barrios, controlled by the locals that feed off you, like Mr. Ramos. And you're right back in the feudalism yet again. Now, Mr. Ramos looks like he has some, native, Indian features. Back when we thought this was India, circumnavigating the globe, running into Mexico, running into what's Mexico today. But actually, you look at the ruling class of Mexico. I mean, they look like Spaniards looking paintings 500 years ago, because there's not one drop. In fact, I'm more under their yardstick. If you're Native American and then Spanish, you could say, because I have some Native American, that I'm more Hispanic than the ruling class of Mexico. I'm just a person. But the point is, this is all complete, absolute horse manure. Total horse manure. So for everybody that doesn't know, being brainwashed, let me tell you what Hispanic is. The Moors invaded Spain and took over about 90% of it. And they were Arab. And what's Arab? Asian, African, and Anglo. So Spaniards, 95% of them have African, Asian, and basically Germanic. Before Spain got overrun, it was basically Germanic. Okay? Blonde hair, blue eyes. So that's what. So if you're Hispanic, you're basically Germanic, a little bit of African, and then some Asian, because that's who came into Africa and all of the Middle East, okay? Then you come here, and then you intermarry with the Native Americans who are Chinese. The genetics is the same thing. Tens of thousands of years ago, over the Bering land bridge, into what is Canada today, and then migrating down through the country, down through the continent. And the countries that are on the continent today of North America, Central America, South America, that's who you are. But no one will even tell you that. They'll just say, kill white people, they're the devil, colonialist. And it's colonialist with the ancestors like Mr. Ramos telling you this, because they don't want you to ever figure out what we did in 1776 and actually begin a program of actually having a system set up for the people where there is a giant middle class and where we get all the spaceships and medical care and all the stuff that a free society brings, that, oh, America's so evil that everybody wants to come here. Then the globalists want to try to extinguish all of that. So you have him spewing hardcore racism. Imagine if Tucker Carlson said, the United States is for white people. I would decry that. What are you talking about? A race? No. But, oh, no. The majority is Hispanic. Yes, absolutely. In fact, it's already, most areas half Hispanic. By 2030, it's like 60, 70% total. Absolutely. And so what I said is, it's your country. Don't you want free market and private property and guns and raising your own kids? And not having the government forced abortions and deadly inoculations like they give the, quote, peasants in Mexico for Gardasil that's sterilizing almost all those people. Oh, I'm so anti-Mexican, I don't want you to sterilize your daughter. Oh, but the loving liberals in your town have the shot. Guys like Ramos, your damn enemy. Excuse me. So it's sickening. It's absolutely, completely sickening to sit here and watch this level of garbage. This is disgusting. So, let's go ahead and start going over all this. Let's start with the race pimp. I mean, this guy is a monster. And this is what's taught in schools. This is what kids are forced said. It's why all over California, the Ninth Circuit ruled you can't wear American flags at school because it'll upset the Hispanics. Who brainwashed Hispanic people that have moved here that they shouldn't be able to see an American flag? People like Jorge Ramos. That's who. And by the way, he cold-bloodedly knows exactly what he's doing. I wonder if Ramos has kids. I wonder who he tells them to marry. Again, total class system in Mexico. People that have kept themselves separate from the, quote, natives for 10, 15 generations. Longer than that. Hell, 500 years? Boy, that's pretty damn racist. Hey, Jorge, did you adopt a Korean person like my family did? No, because you're a stinking pig and a stinking race-baiting Hispanic KKK race manager trying to hurt your own people, and I indict you as a slug and an enemy of humanity. Now, let's go ahead and play this race pimp. Here he is.
Jorge Ramos is an anchor for Univision and one of the president's loudest critics on immigration. He joins us tonight
He's
from
a parasite.
Thanks for coming on.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So at an event several weeks ago in February, you said this, and I wanted to ask you about it, and I'm quoting you. I'm a proud Latino immigrant here in the United States. You know exactly what is going on here in the U.S. There are many people who do not want us to be here and who want to create a wall in order to separate us. But you know what? This is also our country. Let me repeat this. Our country, not theirs. It's our country. Who's the us and who's the they? Whose country is it?
This is our country. It is yours, it is mine, and it is ours. The interesting thing is that with the Trump administration and many people who support Donald Trump, they think it is their country, that it is a white country, and they are absolutely wrong. This is not a white country. This is not their country. It is ours, and that's precisely what I'm saying. Look, in 2044, in 2044, this country, the white population will become a minority. It will be a majority country. That's precisely what I'm saying. Latinos, Asians, African Americans, whites. It is our country, Tucker.
Right. Yeah. Well, let me just point out that you are white. Obviously, you're white.
He teaches on his own channel a bunch of race crap.
I don't know exactly what you mean by white or Latino, but let me just ask you again to explain our country, not theirs. Who is they? Whose country is it not?
Well, many people who want to go back to 1965 when there was a white majority. Many people who believe that Latinos and immigrants...
All right, hit pause. The good part's coming up. Just to be clear, obviously there are white people that are tribal. And then they see a bunch of other groups forming into tribal groups, and it makes them legitimize their tribalism that is, quote, racism. The point is the idea that only white people are tribal is pure bull. And the point is that the left has broken the social compact of bringing people in that are hard workers and then getting them into the melting pot of American culture. They're being indoctrinated to be anti-nation state, anti-sovereignty, with the Pope leading Latin America and other areas saying populism and nationalism is evil. So that's the problem, George, is that you and others, and you know full well what you do. I've seen you over the years with all the race baiting garbage and all the La Reconquista billboards for your, Univision, is in Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty and all this crap. It just goes on and on. This is what's taught. You teach people to have chips on their shoulders. Now, I'll say from my research and statistics, it's not been very successful because folks are too busy out making a living and having the American dream, but it's just disgusting. We're going to come back and get to the part right here on the other side. Stay with us. By the way, this ties into the whole censorship stack I'm going to get to. Look at this article at Infowars.com. It's amazing. Pro-Soros rock band burns Infowars newspaper in new video. And they have a Sikh group doing it. I guess confusing people that he's a Muslim when the biggest enemy of the Muslims is the Sikhs, because millions of Indians have been killed by Muslims. And I'm not here bashing Muslims. Millions of Muslims have been killed by Muslims. The radical Islam is always trying to conquer everything. Wow. And I love the push, again, banning whiteboards in colleges and now saying they want to just basically ban books because somebody might write something bad. This is so authoritarian. It's beyond anything I've ever even heard of in a fantasy novel, in a dystopic nightmare vision. But they just push it and push it and push it because they're so entitled. And yeah, we're off Google ads. Twitter and Facebook are restricting us more and more and blocking us. I mean, it is just amazing to see this type of garbage being pushed by so-called pseudo-intellectuals who just never stop. And they desperately want to shut our speech down. They desperately want to do it. Let me get into the big news here and Paul Ryan and what's happening with the health care bill and the rest of it, the repeal of ObamaCare. But let's get back to George Ramos. And I get really mad at him because I've watched him over the years race bait. I've seen what he says on Univision. I've seen the lies he puts out. He knows Mexico has a wall and a fence and tortures people that come in and gives them 6 months to a year hard labor. I don't think we should do that. Trump's going after criminals. Trump's going after people that have press conferences and shoot their mouths off and flaunt the law. Trump is going to open it up to make it easier to come into the country if you're legal and not a criminal. Notice health care is a little liberal now. A bunch of free stuff. And the Republicans are like, what are you doing, Trump? I told you, folks, Trump's more like a mix between Democrats, Republicans, and populism. He wants prosperity. Quite frankly, I agree with Rand Paul. We need his bill that he's introduced, passed. It's excellent. It's a repeal. That's what the public wants. It's what the polls show. We do not need Paul Ryan, who Rand Paul has said is trying to deceive the president, who now, Paul Ryan's now going direct to the people. We'll show some of that. I've been telling the president. But do it slicker than Paul Ryan. Start at least a few nights a week, fireside chats, just like Roosevelt did during a time of crisis, and talk about positive things you're doing, have guests on, citizens on, make it about little people, and also have graphics and charts and break down the truth. When they lie about you, spend 10 minutes of the 30-minute deal showing where they lied. Show where the media did good. Show good Democrats, show good Republicans, show citizens, every show, every transmission, every presentation, every production that are doing good for the country and, hiring people and taking action, and have immigrant Americans on, like the great Filipino dressmaker, that made that dress that sent shockwaves across the country from the Emmys. And you, with your star talent, with your Q scores, with your believability, and with the truth you're going to be promoting, we'll have the highest rated presentation ever. I predict 20 million people watch it tonight if you just keep doing it. And then around the world, hundreds of millions will end up watching it. They'll have to rebroadcast it everywhere. It will have a giant effect and completely bypass what's left of the dinosaur media, the fake stream media. Paul Ryan's doing it. I'll get to that in a moment and show some of what he's saying. Pushing his disinfo about the new health plan. Is it about 30%, 40% better than Obama? And his plan, absolutely. But Obama got his plan from the Republicans who helped write it. So now we're basically getting what Governor Mitt Romney came up with 15 years ago in Massachusetts. That's what we're getting, again, what the Republicans wanted in the first place. Sure, Obama did some even worse stuff and wanted to bankrupt health care completely and has mandates, for $5,000 a year and all this. This thing's got mandates in it, too, but it's the insurance companies that are going to enforce it. And it gives them a green light to gouge you. And it doesn't allow in all the competition. So Paul Ryan, as usual, is a monster. Let's just call him out. Another know-it-all, thinks he's the elite, garbage. Now, let's go ahead and go back to Mr. Ramos. Stories up on drudgereport.com. Ramos, whites will become minority. This is our country. Those are his quotes. Then he keeps saying, oh, but, it's all our country. The point is that it's a racially based system. Then the elites manage all the little subgroups off against each other. It's disgusting. Let's go back to it.
When there was a white majority, many people who believe that Latinos and immigrants and refugees shouldn't be here. That's precisely what I was referring to.
So it's not their country?
Before the election,
belong to those people? What are you saying?
Well, it's also their country, but it's not only their country.
Right,
we have to understand that this is a multicultural, multiracial country, and we have to live and be tolerant. And that's exactly what I was referring to.
Well, I certainly agree with that. Country. Now, I don't want to bring this to race. You did, so I'm going to follow up on that. But let me ask you this, a theoretical question.
Here, back it up.
What immigration?
Back it up 20 seconds if you can, guys, where he says we have to be multicultural, live together, like the Ninth Circuit ruling that you can't wear American flags in public schools because it's upsetting because the Hispanics have been so brainwashed in those schools, at least some of them, that it's a hurtful symbol. And then the illegals march all over the country and pull down American flags. Mexico would never put up with that because Mexico at least has nationalism. At least gets that, there's some sovereignty and solidarity in the people in that. So you can pull up the articles, you can pull up the Ninth Circuit ruling, the same ones that say, we can't control our borders, saying that you can't have American flags. This is brainwashing. This is intolerance. Political correctness is beating up Trump supporters all over the country and calling for the president's death. You're intolerant. You're bullies. And I'll say this. It's not the Hispanics of this nation are not the shock troops of this. And quite frankly, the Hispanics in this country that were already here, have come here, on average, work very hard and come from really bad countries and bad backgrounds and have made the most of it and aren't as spoiled as a lot of Native Americans are. By Native, I mean people that have lived here, not classic Native Americans. But there's a problem, too, with second, third generation immigrants. They turn into just as big a slob as anybody else. So the point is, this is a decadence problem that we have. Do we need to bring in populations? Because whether you're Hispanic, white, or black, we've aborted half our kids? Absolutely. But the issue is the third world is being used as a weapon system against the first world to drive down wages. And that's why the Republican elite and the Democratic elite have wanted to have the biggest immigration history's ever seen of absolutely unwashed masses. Not checked, not examined, diseases, health problems, you name it, to bankrupt and weigh things down. They want to blow out Western economies and consolidate control. That's admitted in Cloward and Piven. It's admitted in the UN strategies. And this plan of globalism to flood the first world and implode it so that they can dictate the terms of our surrender must be stopped. And George Ramos and others and the Pope Francis can jump up and down with their race-baiting crap. But they don't open up their mansions and their walled cities for the third world populations. They tell everybody else, we've got to sit there and pay for it. And it's wrong. Let's go back to the piece. Here it is.
But it's not only their country.
Right.
We have to understand that this is a multicultural, multiracial country, and we have to live and be tolerant. And that's exactly what I was referring to.
Well, I certainly agree with that. Country. Now, I don't want to bring this to race. You did, so I'm going to follow up on that. But let me ask you this, a theoretical question. What immigration restrictions would you favor in Mexico? It's already a felony to be there illegally, but what further restrictions in the country of Mexico, the country of your birth, would you favor?
Mexico is a terrible example for the protection of immigrants. Mexico treats Central American immigrants in a terrible way. So I wouldn't put Mexico as an example. I think countries should be judged by the way they treat the most vulnerable, not the most vulnerable. And Mexico.
He doesn't say this on his show. I'm not saying it's good that Mexico tortures people. They shoot basically hot sauce up your nose with a shaken Coca-Cola or Sprite, and try to find out where the people coming in. You understand, Mexico's rich compared to most third world countries. In fact, it's on the high end. Guatemala's on the low end. I mean, Guatemala, I had family that lived there for over a decade. I mean, kidnapping everywhere, people shot at the market every day, you name it. I mean, I'm not saying Mexico's doing a good thing, because I think it is a little too extreme, but the point is it's 10 times harsher than the U.S. So how does then Mexico tell us that we can't have a border or any controls when we're one of the most open nations in the world? So George, to his credit, has to admit that that's actually a good point, but that Mexico's a terrible example. Mexico can't open itself up to Central and South America. Are you crazy? Half those countries down there are in total turmoil with people starving on the streets everywhere, the collapse of civilization. Most of the animals, the cats and dogs, have been eaten. The zoos have been robbed for the meat. The elite are basically leaving all those countries. So there's a brain drain, and it's totally collapsing. And then you want us to be like that too, because the globalists want that. And you're on the big New World Order, multinational-owned Univision. Most of it controlled by U.S. executives that are as white as this piece of paper I'm holding here in my hand. It's a bunch of, talk about white people, it's a bunch of fat cats that are totally cold-blooded and hate everybody and want to make everybody poor. They don't care what color you are. You ever heard like the Clippers owner and all these other old rich owners? I don't care if they're, quote, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, or Jewish. They all sound like KKK members. I won't even repeat what they say because the media will take it out of context. You've all heard what they say. You've all heard it, man. That's what the old rich billionaires are like. Just 30 years ago, Donald Trump was buying up golf courses and clubs everywhere where black people, Hispanics, and Jews weren't allowed, and they would try to stop him buying the golf courses and private clubs because they knew. You can read the news articles from the time that, oh, that such and such lover, we're going to stop him. And guess what? Donald Trump kicked their butts all over this country. Oh, but he's the racist. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the garbage they spew at everybody. It's a lie. The rich elites that own the country clubs that don't want anybody in there but themselves are the top people that pull George Ramos' strings. Let's finish up.
Doing a horrible job when it comes to human rights and when it comes to treating Central Americans. On the other hand, here in the United States, I think we have the responsibility to treat immigrants in a decent, in a humane way. We are responsible partly because of that. They come here, undocumented immigrants, because there are thousands of American companies who hire them, and millions of Americans, including you and me and the audience, who benefit from their work. So I think we have the right and the responsibility to treat them much better than the way they treat them in Mexico.
Let me just ask you.
Pause again.
Really quick.
We do treat immigrants much better than Mexico does. Mexico, 6 months to a year hard labor. They contact your family if you've got credit cards and extort money out of them. It's well known. This is the government of Mexico. And they'll torture you. Sometimes they kill you. The Mexican police, in fact, it's in the London Guardian article, routinely, in half the cases, they rape the women. Oh, I'll teach you to come here illegally with your kids. They shove your kids in another room and then take you in and rape you as a form of punishment? Can you imagine if the Border Patrol got caught raping anybody? It'd be cities burning down. Because America has such high standards, and absolutely, I don't want that to happen. But I personally have been shaken down by Mexican police. It's not as bad as it used to be, because they've gotten some corruption under control, at least in that area. But I'm just so sick of everyone lecturing America about how bad we are all day when we're the most open country in the world. And now the globalists want to destroy what makes it so successful. Your capability to become wealthy and successful, independent, whatever those goals are, whether it's to have your own little restaurant or your own little car dealership or your own little bookstore or your own little farm or your own little auto parts store, or whether you want to open a chain of auto parts stores, or whether you want it, whatever it is, and you think you just do that in Mexico? If you're not part of the elite group, you get your ass killed. But see, Americans would fight back if you tried to come in their business and say you couldn't have business. Go read the stuff that was written by George Washington. He wasn't allowed to have his own businesses that weren't controlled by a British lord. And because he wasn't royal, he couldn't open his own companies and businesses. And that's the main reason we had the war. There were a lot of reasons. There was a draft where they would press gang your kids and grab them at age like 6, 7, 8, put them on a ship, probably never see them again. That was slavery. They just didn't call it that. So there's a lot of reasons for Revolutionary War, but the ideas we had, the reasons that we did it, is the reason everybody wanted to come here. Because even though we only achieved a few percentage points of what we wanted to do, it was so much better than anywhere else. It produced more wealth than the world's ever seen. The United States, by 1955, had over 50% of the planet's wealth, and almost all of it was with the small business owner and the small independent person. You fast forward 65, 60 years later, the United States has a fraction of the wealth it had, and almost all of it is in 1%. And the 1%ers, they're almost to a man and a woman want open borders and to bring in giant third world masses. Because they care about you and your family? No. They want to break you, and they're going to do it. And if you're stupid enough to believe Jorge and George Soros and Carlos Slim and Paul Ryan and all these other evil people like George W. Bush, then you deserve what happens to you. Because it's true. This is your country. If you're Hispanic, you deserve it. You didn't kill your kids. And now you're going to let them steal your whole birthright. What, 100 years, you'll all be communists or something, or live under eugenics? If the globalists even let that happen, you're like, thank God we got rid of our birthright of free market and wealth. Yeah, everybody's basically got brown skin. Isn't that great? We got rid of the evil property. Doesn't matter what color you are. Accept the system. Accept what creates wealth and power and success. North Korea is a hellhole. They can't even make automobiles. They have crazy elites running around dominating everybody. Inbreeding. Bunch of insane people. Just like insane people in Europe interbred. Just like a lot of the Muslims have interbred and are completely insane. We need the new blood. That's what it's all about. But we don't need people getting brainwashed the minute they get her. I'm skipping this break, too. Let's go back and finish up with the Tucker Carlson piece. It's taking too long, but here it is.
Quickly, will you just acknowledge the truth, and you're obviously a very rich person, and I'm around rich people a lot. Rich people in America disproportionately benefit from low-wage, low-skilled immigration in the form of household help, in the form of cheap labor. Let's be totally honest. The middle of the country doesn't benefit a lot from this. It lowers wages. They don't hire a lot of household help. And there is a lot of crime, whether you're willing to admit it or not. So why do they think it's free?
No, there's not a lot of crime. Because
look, you don't
pause again. On average, the immigrant populations until about a decade ago were not high crime. But now the criminals are all coming up here to exploit the networks that have been built, and Mexico has a failed state because of the crime networks. So don't give us that, Mr. Ramos. You know damn well there's a giant crime wave coming out of Latin America. Let's go back to it.
So let's just pretend that I didn't say that because it's a stupid.
Donald Trump is the king of fake news when it comes to...
Pause again. Keep countering his lies. Donald Trump's the king of fake news? There's no crime coming up here, bro? Really? Okay, let's go back to him.
The talking points. But let me just get back to the economics of it. It doesn't actually help an American citizen born here making 40 grand a year to have a bunch of people willing to work for 25 grand a year move into his town. Will you concede that?
No. There's a minimum impact on... No, you can laugh if you want, but that's not the truth. Because you're laughing, that doesn't mean it's the truth. Check the National Academy of Sciences. There's an immigration surplus. Overall, immigrants contribute much more to the economy than what they take away in education and social services. Those are the facts. Some people might be affected, but overall, which is what we care about, overall, they have a positive impact.
Okay. Jorge Ramos, thanks a lot for joining us. I appreciate it.
Well, I'll say this. People out of Latin America are 100 times better than people out of the Middle East statistically. Oh, well, let's talk about that. It's not going to be the Latin Americans anymore, folks. That's not even the big group anymore. It's Chinese coming here who are middle class and wealthy to exploit that we're idiots and having their babies for free, who then become citizens and get up to $50,000 in welfare a year. Can I go to China and do that? No. If I went to China and overstayed my visa, they'd lock me up so fast it'd make my head spin. But that's okay. Because China kills, Buddhists and sells their organs. And because they're Asian, it's okay. Because the only evil in the world is when white people do it, right? All right, let me tell you what's coming up. I want to get into the healthcare battle. I want to get into, which is obviously big news. I want to get into military news, economic news. I want to get into attacks on free speech news, internet kill switch news. I want to get into the fact that Facebook admits that the artificial intelligence that they're developed is able to tell the future. Well, yeah, and that's why they knew Hillary was going to lose. So they freaked out and tried to say it was impossible for Trump to win. Then they tried to steal the election, but the defeat was so huge that you failed. And now you're in total panic mode because this stuff only works when the public believes the AI brainwashing. You go, well, how's it AI brainwash? It programs the TV, it programs the buzzwords, it programs the feeds, how they censor people. But because they've got to censor more and more to get the AI outcome they want, they're going to have to totally shut down free speech for this to win, and you don't have the presidency, so you're going to have big trouble doing that. So you're trying to creep around doing it real slow right now, hoping you can put the fires out, but it's too little, too late. Nationalism and self-determination and rugged individualism is exploding too fast. But remember, you heard here first that the cameras and microphones are watching and listening to you. You heard here first that major giant internet collection systems like Google and Facebook are meant to manipulate mass movements of people, not just track them. And remember, you heard there's giant pedophile rings nationwide that are basically taking over the country, that Trump would begin mass arrest of them, which has begun, and now even Town Hall's reporting on it. Remember that I know what I'm talking about. And don't say you weren't straight shot. Right out of Texas. Don't say that, quite frankly, God didn't put people there to give you the message so you had a decision on what you wanted to do via free will. You think God's just going to put a bunch of AI and let the devil do all this and not give you a chance to know what's happening? Not just this broadcast, but all over the place. You're getting the truth. You're getting a straight shot at what's happening. You can sit there and deny it after you see what I tell you turn out to be absolutely on target from their own documents, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. The globalists have to get you to want to turn off your life force and roll over and die. To give up your spirit, to give up control, to give up your free will. That's why they put Satanism everywhere and murder and death and destruction to make you feel ugly inside so that you decide to basically not care about yourself or others and give up so they can rule over you. They want you out of their way. They hate you. They're selfish, empty nobodies in Hollywood. They're selfish, empty nobodies in the so-called music industry. And they only are followed and listened to by the weakest, stupidest, dumbed-down people. Those of us that are awake, more and more in an exodus away from them. That's why they're trying to censor this mass awakening and keep you from understanding you're number one. You're part of the majority. You're part of the Great Awakening. You love God. You love justice. You resonate with truth. They want to make you feel like you're alone. You're never alone. The enemy wants to create false realities like what you see in downtown New York City with all the TVs and jumbotrons and face scanning systems. They want to insert you into a false reality because that's the only way they can control you. Like B.F. Skinner raising little kids in boxes so he could be their God. They want to be God, but to do that, they've got to shrink the universe down to nothing to pretend they're God. They're the ultimate posers. We got so much coming up the next hour. We got a bunch of guests as well that I'll be telling you about. Before I go any further, I want to thank all the listeners for getting the new T-shirts, Trump Pence 2020, Keeping America Great, just to get out there to promote free speech, meet like-minded people. It's amazing. If you haven't ordered them, get them. They're $9.95. Free shipping this week through next week. So now's the time to take advantage. And we're also introducing, and I thought we'd have a month's supply of this, but people really understand how fungus and mold is in your guts and in your body. So Dr. Group, after a decade of research, has come out with Myco ZX. We have the reviews up on InfoWarsStore.com from the studies he's done, and now third-party reviews are coming in. It is simply incredible. And if you take it with the Biome Defense probiotic we have, they work synergistically while it knocks out the yeast and fungus in your gut. Then it gets replaced with the best strains of active, high-quality bacteria out there. It's incredible. Support the broadcast. It's a win-win-win. Get the Myco ZX today at InfoWarsLife.com and get it with the 50 billion active strain or 25 billion active strain. We have the extra strength and regular Biome Defense and an additional 10% off. Sign up for auto ship, an additional 10% on that. And orders $50 or more, free shipping. But this week it's all orders, whether they're $9.95 colloidal silver or whether it's Biome Defense and Myco ZX. Unfortunately, wow, I wish I miscalculated again. I just don't have the money to order a massive amount of stuff, and then if it doesn't sell, I'm sitting on it and then we can't operate. But we miscalculated on Myco ZX. This is trying to be the best all-time seller in history if it keeps on like this. Will be sold out at current sales rates by Saturday. So if you want to take advantage of this out of the gates, I'm going to keep it discounted out of the gates because I want you to try it and see what it does and then share this with others. Because, again, the pesticides and herbicides bioaccumulate in the food we eat. It kills the good flora, and only the bad flora ends up growing in there. It's available at InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. We'll be back. I'm going to be more focused. We'd had a good hour, but more focused in the next hour. I'm going to laser beam all the news. All right, it's hour number 2. I'm going to tell you about the guests when we come back from this quick break in a few minutes, but I've got a very powerful John Bound special report I want to get to. U.S. citizens under threat of foreign hackers thanks to the deep state. Yeah. Julian Assange came out and gave a little press conference today, and he made the point that the CIA claiming we're all enemies for having this. They're the ones that leaked it. They're the ones that don't have good practices, keeping secret stuff that's illegal they're doing. I love how they turn this around. Here is the John Bound report, and we'll be back.
It's an atomic bomb of public information, the first in a WikiLeaks data dump of the largest ever publication of confidential CIA documents dubbed Vault 7 by WikiLeaks. The first chunk of the series, gleaned from the ultra-secure CIA Center for Cyber Intelligence in Langley, Virginia, is 8,761 documents, known to the CIA as Year Zero. The gravity of the situation is monumental. As WikiLeaks writes, recently the CIA lost control of the majority of its hacking arsenal. The archive appears to have been circulated among former U.S. government hackers and contractors in an unauthorized manner, one of whom has provided WikiLeaks with portions of the archive. Year Zero introduces the scope and direction of the CIA's global covert hacking program, its malware arsenal, and dozens of zero-day weaponized exploits against a wide range of U.S. and European company products, including Apple's iPhone, Google's Android, and Microsoft's Windows, and even Samsung TVs, which are turned into covert microphones. By the end of 2016, the CIA's hacking division, which formally falls under the agency's Center for Cyber Intelligence, had over 5,000 registered users and had produced more than 1,000 hacking systems, Trojans, viruses, and other weaponized malware. Such is the scale of the CIA's undertaking that by 2016, its hackers had utilized more code than that used to run Facebook. The CIA had created, in effect, its own NSA with even less accountability and without publicly answering the question as to whether such a massive budgetary spend on duplicating the capacities of a rival agency could be justified. Essentially, a cyber weapon of the heaviest caliber in the hands of any hacker on planet Earth. Not only has the CIA and its deep state web of political minions kept this total breach of human privacy quiet, they have turned the illegal and compromised Frankenstein monster loose on America's executive branch. Meanwhile, the corporocratic political elite knowingly carried on with the charade that the CIA had proof the Russians were colluding with President Donald Trump, knowing full well that the deep state could counterfeit any trace of hacking, and in turn blaming it on rogue actors to support a seditious coup of the President of the United States.
Because of the seriousness of the accusations involved on all sides of this issue, I want to make sure that we hold as many of these hearings out in public so that the American people and all of you can attend and report on. This is an initial list, but we have Director Comey of the FBI, Director Rogers of the NSA, former Director Brennan from CIA, former Director Clapper, Miss Yates, former Acting Attorney General.
What they're interested in is warning the American public and the world that the so-called smart appliances, let's say a phone, smart TV, Samsung, Sony, even your smart car, is totally vulnerable to the NSA and in particular the CIA. Now, the NSA always had the mandate for cyber command and cyber warfare. The individual and the institution that never had the command or the mandate was the CIA. It has to release its mandate or it will be prosecuted for crimes against the state. And it has already committed crimes against the state.
Maybe now, as the intelligence community and the Schumers, Feinsteins, and Pelosi's in the corrupt D.C. bubble are rightfully questioned due to this massive attack on the Bill of Rights, they will come to feel the persuasive presence of Providence protecting these United States of America. President Trump, the swamp appears to be draining itself. Godspeed, Commander, and God bless America. John Bound for Infowars.com.
Dave Rubin, who is just really a smart guy. I say that because I would never watch him when he was on the Young Turks because I couldn't listen to them and the arrogance and the ignorance and the lies. And then I got familiar with him going on the Joe Rogan podcast and some of the other work he's doing. And then I've been on some co-interviews with him on some other shows. The point is that he's going to be on with us in the third hour today. Jon Rappoport's hosting the fourth hour. And I've got a lot to cover today. I may just co-host with Rappoport. That's kind of how that works sometimes in the fourth hour. If I want to take it over, I do. But Rappoport's always great to listen to. Rappoport's one of my favorite people to listen to, quite frankly. That's one of the few people I'll actually listen to at like midnight if I'm still up while I'm doing work. I put Rappoport on when he fills in. I don't know why I'm volunteering that. I am so angry right now that I'm calm. That's what's happening. So you're not getting the quacking Alex. You're getting the very, very angry Alex right now. So I'm trying to control myself. You know why I'm pissed off? Because it's so ridiculously obvious that Pope Francis is a horrible, demonic, anti-Christian slug. And that George Ramos, one of the biggest TV hosts in the world, is an absolute elitist trying to ensure that Latin Americans never get a middle class. I mean, they're so uncool. And we have the WikiLeaks. We know the social engineering. I've studied all these people. I know I'm right. I know Donald Trump actually wants a giant middle class and wants to advance people off of what they stand for, not what color they are. Just like Martin Luther King said, I know the ideology I'm promoting is an entire universe different and better than the globalist. I know the globalists are hell-bent on social engineering and phasing out humanity. I've read 4 books by Bertrand Russell. I've read 5 books by Zbigniew Brzezinski. I've read both books Adolf Hitler wrote. What a scumbag. I have read it all. Okay, I basically read it all. I've read the social engineering books of Edward Bernays. I've read the social engineering books of H.G. Wells. I don't say that like I'm bragging, but I realize that when I talk to pseudo-intellectuals, they might have read one of these they did their thesis on in college, and they walk around acting like they're all intellectual and lisping and acting wimpy like that's intellectual. They don't know anything. They know how to screw people over. They know how to put out dumbed-down ideology that dumbed-down populations go along with. But it's like giving some man who's dying of thirst in the desert an empty glass and saying, here, drink that. I just have hospitality. I'm not even saying I'm a perfect person, but I like life. I like hospitality. I like seeing people do good. And they see me as a chump, you see, because I'm not a sociopath. I'm not a psychopath. I am a primitive, snarling caveman. But thank God I'm not one of these modern scumbags ready to screw everybody over. I get fundamentally angry when I read WikiLeaks, thousands of pages of it, how they want to make you poor, how they want to hurt you. I mean, I just did like me and Buckley one night were up here late reading like hundreds of pages, and he said, my God. He said, how could anyone be this nasty? And he's like, look, they're all nasty. Oh, we screwed these people over. Oh, we're going to rip these people off. Oh, yeah. It's like, I want to get these people. I'll tell you point blank, man. I want to get in a ring with them and go, here's a battle axe, I've got one. You want to screw people over? Try it with me. And it's not that I'm claiming I'm the toughest guy around, but I've got a will and an instinct to absolutely stomp their heads in. I am sick of scum. I am sick of backstabbing filth. I am tired of these people. I want to see the spirit of humanity rise up and defeat them. They make a big joke out of the fact that I get pissed off. The persecution of our species, if you don't have empathy and you don't metaphysically feel it, it's not just empathy. It's not just you see something happening, you're upset. You can feel it. And you look at these scumbags like Hayden up there, so weak, so pathetic, so dumb, so turned over to evil in his stupid little admiral outfit, when he couldn't command his way out of a wet paper bag, telling us, oh, the millennials are the fault of why all this data keeps leaking. You're the ones, the buck stopped with you. You're the one that let that get out. You're at fault, and you never take responsibility, not for the crimes you commit against us, or when you get caught, you claim it's the people that your own program helped dumb down. That's something else. You blame people you dumb down so you can control them on the fact that stuff leaked? I love that. Oh, you can't get good personnel because of a declassified CIA program that's been going on for 65 years to turn people into idiots. So weaklings like you can manage them, and then the snake eats itself, and it turns around and it blames the dumbed down, lazy society that you've helped foster and create. You blame it on your victims. That's something else, isn't it? I look at North Korea and the stunted, demonic little pig people that are ruling over those starving villagers and just having their way with them. But they're so brainwashed, they're almost free. They're just like, just being tortured by a bunch of nobodies. And I just see where we're going. God almighty, it makes me want to throw up what goes on in Venezuela, what goes on in Cuba, and then I get to hear all these slack-jawed, lazy college kids driving luxury cars with $1,000, $800 smartphones in their hands, bitching and telling me how great communism is and how I'm a white male, so I have no opinion or no standing, but they're white males telling me that while they drive a car nicer than mine. I'll be in an anti-abortion protest, the communists get out, they're driving an $80,000 Jaguar Mercedes, and they're like, F you, you capitalist scum, and they're like wearing $800 shoes. And none of it's lost on them. You understand? It's like this rock band that's supposedly big, I'm told. Pro-Soros rock band burns Infowars newspaper in music video. And they call for basically shutting us down. And then, oh, but get this, they sell their music. And they're rich. Oh, and they say I'm anti-Muslim, and so they have a Sikh, who are the group, India wouldn't even exist if it probably wasn't for them, who battled the Muslims for 800 years, a Sikh. I love that propaganda, as if you're going to show a Sikh that Infowars is bad, when I can't walk down a street and I'll have the Sikhs run over and start shaking my hand like Jesus Christ just landed. And I'm not saying that's even a good thing, but you don't know how I get mobbed by Indians wherever I go because they know Donald Trump's right. Because 100+ million Indians have been killed by Islamicists. Oh, yeah, 140 million. So I love your little commie propaganda. Think it's going to work on the Indians? Don't think so. They've already been murdered for hundreds of years. They know. You scum. See, that's the ignorance of you people. Oh, we're communist. Oh, we make tens of millions a year. Oh, buy our album. Oh, Alex is a capitalist. Burn his free speech. See, I haven't even gotten to the news yet. It's just at a certain point, I'm just sick of hypocrites. I am completely and totally tired of Bono. Got caught giving less than 1% of billions he raised for Africa. And so he went up to 1.8%. Same thing with Hillary. I mean, but it's okay because she's liberal and she's a woman, so steal all the money. It's okay, right? They're bad people. And then let's get to Paul Ryan first. We have video. Paul Ryan did a multi-hour presentation today where he went out with a TV and some graphics and lied to the American people. I watched part of it. I got a printout of what he said. This is the best deal. This is a lot better than Obamacare. No, Rand Paul has pointed out that this is a horrible deal. You're trying to deceive the president into getting behind it. And I'm glad to say, Paul Ryan, we have the votes to repeal the whole stinking thing. Then we can do something else if we want. We're not going to have the original Republican screwjob version. Are there some good parts? Is it better than Obamacare? Yes. But it's not what Congress got sent there to do, and it's worse than what a repeal is. So you're not going to get it, Eddie Munster. You're not going to get it, you sociopath con man. You're not better than us. We see through you, you piece of filth, and you will fall. God, I'm so sick of these con men. I'm so tired of them. I pray for the day he gets thrown out of Congress. He's a bigger enemy than Hillary Clinton. He is the enemy of the American people. He is funded massively by George Soros, and he thinks he can con you. He is a total piece of trash for the big insurance companies that want to make you buy their overpriced insurance. We've already seen it massively increase in prices. We've seen the huge screw job. It was designed to wreck the normal market and take out all the small companies and small chains of hospitals and clinics. This is a consolidation of the healthcare market and a screw job to the consumer and the American people and a private corporate tax to offshore banks that own insurance companies. And Paul Ryan is bought and paid for, and he wants to rob you and your family. Think about how he wants to rob tens of thousands of you from your money every year. But also get the big lesson. Donald Trump needs to start doing his own presentations just like this at least a couple times a week. Then they'll want to do it every night with his energy, 8 o'clock Central. I'm telling you, it'll be the highest rated information in history, and it will help further bring the globalist mainstream media down. It's already down, but it's time to push the facade over. I'm Alex Jones. You know, I know Trump's smart. He bypasses the media all the time on Twitter. He needs to do it direct, at least twice a week, maybe like Wednesday nights, Sunday nights. That's what I would do. 30 minutes to an hour. And just get up there like Paul Ryan did, but more professionally. And cover the lies of the media, cover the good news, cover what's happened in the week, cover what's coming up in the week. It's a major weapon Trump should absolutely dominate with, not just press conferences or occasional speeches he gives live. He has his own program at whitehouse.gov. All the networks will carry it. It'll control the narrative. It'll absolutely counter them and bypass them. It is the way to go. Now, since I mentioned censorship, the crew was just pointing out that this Soros group, rock band, called Portugal Man, has this whole dystopic website, and there's the resistance to the right-wingers and Alex Jones, basically. And again, this is the type of counterculture stuff they're putting out that is not counterculture. It's all just globalist garbage, hoping young people look at this and see the beta males that produce it and think, oh, I'm cool now. But I'm done attacking it. Let me get into all the other news that's coming up here because there's so much that is important that I need to cover. Let's get to the internet censorship and the internet kill switch that's basically going into place, but it's also happening in the real world. Internet kill switch activated in slow motion. Special report up on Infowars.com. Twitter is now making entire profiles sensitive and not letting you see them. Well, yeah, and not letting you send your tweets or not letting folks know where you went. This is the massive censorship that they're just phasing in. That's a report from Mashable. Twitter is trying to take on its troll problem. Oh, see, anybody they don't agree with is a troll in 2017, but the campaign is not without problems. So they don't make it about is censorship good or bad. They just, oh, it's an anti-troll deal, anti-fake news deal, no big deal. In addition to a range of tools aimed at filtering abusive tweets, the platform now appears to be quietly marketing entire accounts. Again, marking entire accounts as sensitive. Then it goes over all that. Or they come out in USA Today and go, oh, we're just going to flag stuff we say is questionable or fake. Then they ban our articles if it's Senator Rand Paul on the show or a former CIA section chief saying they were targeting Trump. When it's powerful and credible is when they block it. Meanwhile, I saw another CNN report last night where they were saying Trump follows fake news and Alex Jones. He believes, it was a TV report but also a print report, that there's actually high migrant crime, not Islamic invasion crime, but migrant crime taking place in Sweden, and there's no evidence. Doesn't matter, it's a national scandal. Doesn't matter if a bunch of police chiefs and others have gone public saying it's an epidemic of murder and killing and women being raped at public events en masse. No. Trump's crazy. He got it from Alex Jones. It doesn't exist. Number one, he didn't get it from us. Everybody's been covering this. But number two, it's totally real. But that's the game they play. Sweden. Migrants slice woman's throat open, murder husband, then laugh about it. Paul Joseph Watson. And then there's links to the foreign mainstream newspapers. Police chief asked for reinforcement for 5 murders in recent days in an area that never really had murders before. It was terrible what happened last night in Sweden. Oh, what happened? Nothing happened. Then there was like riots that night. France mayor faces €1,900 fine for saying 91% of Muslim classrooms are a problem. And that's the classrooms are now in many areas 90+% Muslim. And by the way, they say if you're not a Muslim, don't come in. They're not tolerant. But that's okay, because we are. We're tolerant to be overrun. French mayor charged with crime after expressing concern over Muslim takeover of town. Woman gender studies degrees up 300%. And you learn when you take these classes how to hate men, how to hate yourself, and how to roll over to Islam, though. Because, a guy opening a door for you is bad, but if a guy's going to cut your genitals off, that's Islam. That's okay. BBC presenter given warning after saying transgender people can never be real women. Yeah, they don't have wombs. They're not real women. You want to identify as that? You feel like that? Hey, knock yourself out. Doesn't hurt me. I don't hate you. But don't then try to go teach kids and recruit. But again, BBC presenter given warning, you may be kicked off air. So that's the type of censorship and garbage that's going on. We're going to look at incredible developments, the good, the bad, and the ugly on the economy straight ahead. We're going to look more at the huge escalation with Korea. That's North Korea, the same one Maxine Waters says Russia invaded. No, actually, they're threatening to attack Japan. They're the problem. We'll be back. All right, I'm going to rampage through a ton of news right now, but to be absolutely clear and on target. When I say there are a lot of good people in federal agencies, whether it's transportation or education or the CIA or the FBI or Defense Intelligence or National Intelligence, it's because there are good people. In fact, some of the best people have gotten involved in government trying to make things better from the inside. So there's a paradox that the media plays on that I'm being hypocritical. I thought the government's big and bad and corrupt. You're saying there's all these good people in government. I've always said that. Just like there are good people that work in major corporations. But if you've got bad directors and globalists that have larger plans that are corrupt, and you have policy papers put out by these elites admitting this, then you've got to resist it. The CIA is one of the oldest agencies in this country since the National Security Act. Army intelligence and naval intelligence all predate that. It's been trying to absorb that ever since. And it was set up basically by blue bloods and British intelligence in a, not even an infiltration, but an agreed upon secret treaty at the end of World War II to have the United States take over the British Empire. And so, and Churchill wrote about that. This is not a secret, okay? But the agreements were secret at the time. And so the United States was not taken over by England. It was the other way around. The British Empire, the Royals, all of them signed over control to be partners in the special relationship. And so the United States took over the British Empire in 1947. OSS, you name it. Now, since that happened, you see where things have gone. So the CIA is an American agency, but it's also an imperial agency. And it's been involved in just absolutely horrible stuff up one side and down the other. But you see Assange says rogue CIA now targeting Americans. CIA creates its own version of the NSA without permission. And this is a Jerome Corsi article on Infowars.com from a press briefing or statement he made this morning. But I want to be clear. The CIA is not even the main agency. It's more the muscle. It's the State Department. And anybody that knows anything knows that's actually who runs the whole show. And that's why Rex Tillerson is having so much trouble getting anybody to do what he says or find people, because that's where the real rebellion is. And Rex Tillerson, as an executive who knows how to go into companies they take over and make people do what they're supposed to, is in there in a total war right now. So be clear about that. This country is in incredible times. And I'm surprised Trump's gotten as much done in 45 days, but he's got to, because he's got them working around the clock against him. Now, I don't know all his plans, obviously, but this bill that's better than Obamacare is still terrible that Paul Ryan has put forward. Obviously, Rand Paul's plan is a repeal. It's great. We should go with Rand Paul's plan. It's the best out there. And I've been saying that for 2 years since he first introduced the plan. He's reintroduced it today. That's up on Infowars.com right now. But to be clear, I've just got to give credit here where credit's due. We wouldn't be as far along as we are right now if there weren't major rogue elements in the CIA and other agencies that helped Trump get in, who are now becoming the main element. The majority of the CIA does not like the globalists, knows the plan's evil, knows it's bad, don't have chips on their shoulder against free market, and don't like communism. But they're controlled by the big foundation appointees that are eugenicists and have this larger breakaway civilization plan that ends the human species as we know it. And so now that this is understood and the globalists were arrogant enough to talk about it, we exposed it. Top-down intelligence agencies and corporate systems have studied the enemy program and have decided they don't want it. So there is a cultural rejection, a vomiting up of the poison of the New World Order planetary plan, the technocracy, technotronic era program that Brzezinski and others have been honchoing. They're certainly not the progenitors or creators of it. So we're talking the big struggle right now. The future is being decided on whether it's going to be pro-human and whether we're going to let AI computers manipulate the internet and human activity and markets to where they get real control in live time of the population that's turned itself over as pawns to basically be biological androids, or whether we're going to start moving into a promotion of cultural information that is truly empowering and enlightening in a new renaissance, which will threaten stagnated elites, but which will save the species. And the real debate is, you just wipe people out and let the elites do all this, breakaway civilization stuff, or do you decide to bet on humanity and move forward? The main reason they're backing off is, you could say, it's not just from an altruistic perspective or seeing the light, and so many of their own operatives realizing where this tunnel actually goes, not to Valhalla, but to hell. But the bigger issue is the elites themselves understand they're not going to get away with this plan and then not have large elements of humans that survive after them. Because they're not going to just kill 80% of us. They say they're going to kill 99%. That's in public documents. Well, the elites that thought they were elite are now going, what, you're going to kill everybody? They're like, it's okay. It'll be by the time it's your, it'll be your kids. Just. So people are actually sitting back going, this doesn't sound too good. Even sociopaths are sitting around going, this doesn't sound too smart. And turn everything over to AI? No, let's have a talk about this. They're like, no, jump off the cliff. Come on, let's do it. Nah, I don't think so. So don't just think this is all, America and goodness and love and, everything's turning around. It's people realizing just how nasty this is. Now, there are a lot of good people fighting it, and we're the shock troops in all this. But the truth is, the sociopaths said we didn't count. The psychopaths said we didn't count. They said we would be defeated. The public was too dumb. They never listened to nationalism or productivity or renaissance or wanting God back in their lives. They'd rejected it. They'd failed. They'd failed the test. Humanity was meant to fall. Humanity was meant to be eradicated in the second fall. But see, humanity wasn't meant to. And they can now look at humanity as already overpowering the AI. We're already overpowering their best mind control, their chemicals, their biologicals, their radiologicals, super weaponized stuff. Large segments of the public are basically resistant or becoming immune to it. And the globalists now see the rise of the next level of resistance, and they're already evacuating many of them. Because, again, the ones in charge are so cowardly, so wicked, so evil, that they now understand there's a good chance they're going to lose. So they're already moving to phase 2, armored redoubts, emergency escape ships, underground bunkers, I mean, big facilities, understanding that they may have to have a staged nuclear war or bioweapon release. It's going to be bio, like Bill Gates said, to wipe us out. The problem is, if you don't get all of us, we're going to get you, because then the gloves are off. It's not like you're going to release this stuff and act like terrorists did it, Bill. Bill Gates' wife last year gave a speech in Germany. She said, if you don't stop talking about this, those of you conspiracy theorists saying we're trying to reduce population, a lot of people are going to die. People, then the word went out, well, didn't you get that threat? And like, oh, I got the threat. You just think, like, we don't know how dangerous it is to go up against you? Oh my God, you threatened us. Oh my gosh, I'm going to run away scared now. They think we're stupid. They keep going, sell out to us, back off, or we'll get you. And it's like, sell out to killing everybody? Sell out to jumping in bed with a bunch of demons? Hell no. That's not even a question. And people now they go, wow, this isn't really Alex's nightmare vision of things. This isn't paranoia. This is, you can go read just the news today, and they're all saying this. And people are going, wow, wow, wow. If Alex Jones told us 18 years ago about the cameras and microphones, listening to us, if all this is going on, we better go look at what he's talking about. They're like, oh my God, it's worse than you say. It's all true. They admit it. I'm like, yeah, I told you. They're putting cancer viruses in the polio vaccine, in the MMR vaccine, in the tetanus vaccines. They've been caught all over the world doing it, folks. And the viruses go into your nerves and then wait till a certain replication point in age of the cells. Some people it hits earlier than it's supposed to, and it's meant literally to not pay you unemployment or to pay you your retirement money. And there's even white papers and patents and how they did it. And I mean, they gave everybody in Europe and the United States and then all over the world weaponized cancer viruses, live virus. And we're all been implanted with termination switches. And then they can hack and cut and try to stop their own work. And I've done presentations. I've made films. You know, I thought about this morning, should I even sit up here and show you all the documents and articles and how by the 70s they knew 100 million plus Americans got cancer and most of them died from SV40 alone. And I'm talking CDC documents. This is public. Oh, see, it's a little bit worse than them just watching you. They're putting cancer viruses in the major vaccines that, just like herpes, go into the nerves and then activate later upon stress. And they've even tested the viral strains of cancer virus so that they can, again, actuary with computers down to when it's going to kill the average person. Yes, you've been given a termination switch. You like that? Because, of course, the elite, of course, the Rockefellers and Cold Springs Harbor that funded Hitler publicly, of course they're going to implant you with a time bomb weapon. Oh, and by the way, they've got treatments and ways to reverse it. But they're not going to tell you that. Their family gets that, not yours. It's up to you to die. You're supposed to roll over so these inbred, horrible people can inherit the earth. Well, are you going to do that? And yeah, I know I talk about horribly frightening things, and the enemy thinks that you're like them, cowards. They think, oh, this will just scare people. They go, oh, don't worry about Alex Jones. He's just scaring people. You know, I wasn't talking to the general public, some of which are cowards. I was talking to those in the general public that aren't. But I was talking to the intelligentsia who was one level below all this intel. You know you dumb the public down. You know you brainwash people. You know you want to manage group. You know you're not really liberals. You're cold-blooded social engineers, and you're told liberalism is the cover that you do it. But it's for the greater good to stabilize the planet and reduce population. But You didn't get a memo not to give your kid the vaccine, though, did you? No, see, you're meant to die, too. And by the way, cancer, viruses, and vaccines is not even, on a scale of 1 to 10, not even a number 2. Cameras and microphones watching and listening to you is not even a 0.1. You know, for 50 years, they've had clones. That's now admitted. You know they've had chimeras for 35. They admit. Part human, part animal. Part, you name it. You know that, right? See, it just goes on and on, on and on, on and on, on and on, and now it's all just going to start coming out. Because, see, they can't hide it now. They want to just hide it, have a breakaway civilization. You don't even know about it. It's in government reservations, corporate reservations. Now, because it's all coming out, they're going to have a debate about it. And just go, oh, you know, there's a show about clones, and next on the news, you know, we got these clones, and don't worry, the clones are going to have rights. That'll be their, oh, robots are going to have rights. See how this works? Let me hit some other news for you. Here's the deal. The big lie is ever telling yourself you're part of the power structure when you go along with this. You're fooling yourself, even if you're a top Rockefeller or a Rothschild or somebody, you know, a J.K. Rawlings as part of the propaganda. You're signing on to the color out of time. You're signing on to horror. You're signing on to the most wicked, destructive force in the universe. Because you're scared deep down, and it's real sexy when you just kind of brushes up against you from a distance, like, ooh, what was that? Let me have some of that. That must be really powerful. What's that do? But if you'd come face to face with it, you'd never curl up next to it. But don't worry, God's going to remove more and more of the protection because you've asked for it, and you're going to get to rub up against it a little closer. Just like those kids that get grabbed out of their backyards and get tortured to death, sometimes over a couple years. All of you that have served this, you have opened the door to everything you want, and you're going to get it. So make no mistake about that. Because God is a just God. Now, get some of the other news. I said I'd cover a lot of news, and I'm not. I'm a bad person. Let's just cover these headlines. House panel approves GOP ObamaCare replacement bill. But it's got major resistance in the full House. GOP healthcare plan, Obama revision, clears first hurdle in House committee. Why aren't they just getting rid of it? They have the votes. Because the Republicans are part of the same scumbaggery. They want to run your life. GOP scores win on health bill with pre-dawn vote. Yes, it's gone out of the committee. New health care bill targets lottery winners. Yes, really. A customer purchased a Mega Millions lottery ticket at a store in Maine Friday. The jackpot of Friday's drawing score is $500 million. On Thursday, the White House introduced an American Health Care Act. American people, the White House press secretary, Communications Director Sean Spicer, compared the new health care bill to the Affordable Health Care Act, saying Obamacare was an overcomplicated bill that served the special interest and not the American people. Those are over 974 pages that were passed, and then we were told we had to read them, are filed with carve-outs by over $1 billion of health care-related lobbying that were spent on the year of Obamacare it was crafted. What's that to do with the lottery? I thought I'd read that article. It's so weird. Let's continue here. Paul Ryan suggests new health care bill tax cut for the wealthy is no big deal. More screw jobs. How about tax cuts for the middle class and poor people and everybody else? That's what's going to help the economy, jerk. Let's continue. Facebook is teaching artificially intelligent computers to predict the future. I already mentioned that, but that's out of the sun. We'll cover that. Burger flipping robot replaces humans on first day at work. Yeah, the French socialists said, we've raised the minimum wage to get rid of humans. We want robots so the state controls everything. Here they don't tell you that. They just call for higher wages, not telling you that if you do that across the board, it'll just bring in the robots and replace you. But there it is, London Telegraph. Rise of the machines. That's just some of the news. Diamond says Trump has reawakened animal spirits in the U.S., and it may be impossible to stop the recovery. I know they're trying as hard as they can. We're going to get to that. Trump woos lawmakers with flattery and White House bowling with a work ethic they admits like 10 times out of Barack Hussein Obama. All that and more. And the big news when we come back, I haven't hit yet first. Donald Trump sends B-52 nuclear bombers to South Korea after North fires missiles at Japan and U.S. warns of overwhelming response. Pretty big news. I mean, it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, North Korea is a wonderful total government state communist system that our elites are striving for. How could it be such a threat? How could it be such a problem routinely firing missiles right across the shore and almost hitting Japan? I mean, how dare us not bow down to Kim Jong-un, God Emperor of big government? He's so powerful. Just look at him. Okay, there's so much new news that's breaking, too, on Infowars.com. I need to get to all of this. Man, there is so much here. Just broke on Infowars.com. Also, Linda Sarsour arrested outside of the Women's Day organization protest outside Trump Hotel. And literally, this is the jihadi lady that admittedly runs the Women's March, and they hand out thousands of burqas or hijabs, and then the women wear it. It's just, and they like promote Islam with Gloria Steinem from the CIA. Look at Gloria Steinem, who admits that she was there to break up the family. I mean, what a piece of trash. But that she has a husband, she has kids. She just wants to make sure you don't get them. Yeah, here she is back here in the background. Sharia law supporter and anti-Trump activist has been arrested along with other protesters out Trump Hotel in New York City during the Day Without Women. What do you mean, like Day Without Women being able to walk around without hoods on their heads in Saudi Arabia? Or a Day Without Women being sold on slave blocks in Sudan? These people are just totally morally bankrupt. I mean, they're just absolute, complete kook balls. So that's some of the news on Infowars.com. I want to get into the North Korea thing. It's really the big news, but briefly, they're trying to censor us all over. You notice I never promoted newsletters because I was all about viral spread of news on Facebook, Google, YouTube, you name it, and then folks spreading the articles for Infowars.com. Now that they're censoring us more and more, you got to send it out on your own email. You got to send it out to other groups. We've got to start moving on to other platforms. And sure, whether it's Reddit, you name it, they're starting to censor pro-Trump, pro-America stuff because they know we're winning. They're desperate. This is a desperate move. Everybody's got to sign up at Infowars.com/newsletter because every day we send out a special of 50% off one or more products. And we're running a special right now that deals with this. That is absolutely amazing. We're offering that on... Well, they're supposed to have it in my... I'm not mad about this. I'm not mad about this. It's just that it's supposed to be here. So let me see. Victory Series 1, President Trump, Donald J. Trump deals. Those are almost sold out. The new RZ Air Filtration Preparedness Mask. We've got free shipping store-wide for this week at InfoWarsStore.com. And we have the Ultimate Paleo Caveman Formula for 33% off introductory price right now. But I do not have it here in my stack. But coming out today, one of our great nutraceuticals, I know because they do it every day, or hell, who even knows if that's happening? Let me know, folks, if it isn't happening. 50% off at InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. We send out videos, articles, you name it, that it's really hard for them to censor email. So be sure and sign up for our free email. Also, the probiotic is 10% off, Biome Defense, when you get it with our new antifungal, anti-yeast, Myco ZX, 10 years in the making by Dr. Group. It is incredible. You can read the reviews of what these products do. Here's one for a review of Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2. As a September 11th first responder, I was exposed to many toxins, and my body is fighting to survive. Supplementation for my well-being is needed to fight off my illness. Alex Jones' product line is organic and does improve my health. So much so, I took the Zadroga payout for 9/11 responders and opened a business. I have energy once again and now can focus on living rather than sitting in a hospital bed 5 times a year. That's Philip from an undisclosed location, 5-star review of X2. Yeah, it just does so many things. So that's available at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. And, I don't know what the 50% off special is today because it's not in my folder, but that's okay because I'm going to say X2 is 50% off today with whatever else. And then I'm going to sit here at night and make sure that email goes out. Or I'll quit my job. How's that sound? Because I got to get on air and I got to perform here every day, and I'm glad to do it and get you the information. And I'm going to keep doing it. We're going to go 18 hours a day live soon. I'm not going to back off because no one can defeat live. It forces you to get on air and perform and work. And everybody's going to work to defeat the globalists, come hell or high water. We're now well into the third hour, and I am just so angry at the globalist. Look at this disgusting, pig-like, rat-like, sneaky, lying, anti-Christian demon running around at the Vatican, and he probably tuck his little forked tail in, you know, there at the big pervert base, pedophile base that the Vatican's been turned into. I mean, I think nobody denies that. Like, conspiracy theory, there's pedophiles in the Vatican. Conspiracy theory, there are bats in caves. Conspiracy theory, there are fish in the ocean. Pope turd eater. You know why I say that? He's the one that says that those of us that are nationalists or question the media love feces and have sex with it. Nobody, that comes out of your brain. So you are now known as Pope Poop Eater. Oh my gosh, he's a religious pontiff. How dare you, hate speech. He said hearing about Christian roots of Europe disgust him. He's a disgusting person. Let's go back to Pope Poop. Go back to him, please. I'm in a really angry mood today. Yeah, let's go to the headline, people. He says that populism is evil, close quote. Pope Poopus issued a veiled warning, nothing veiled about it, about Donald Trump's populism is evil. Yeah, the people being involved, the people wanting something, the people, 1776, there's nothing more terrible. By the way, turnabout's fair play. I have free speech to say whatever I want about the Pope, but a lot of people say, oh, he's a good communist, so you're not supposed to talk bad about him. He said people that like Trump like to have sex with feces. Okay? Said it 3 months ago. He said that nationalists are evil. He said Christians in Europe are, I mean, it's crazy. Look, go be a devil worshiper or something, man. To stop saying you're a Christian leader. When it's well known in the London Guardian report, they use pedophilia and the scandals to get control of the Vatican and put you in there. I'm not saying you're a pedophile. I'm just saying, you know, you can't swing a stick in the dark at the Vatican and not, not hit, well, it's Sandusky. Pope Francis compares fake news consumption to eating feces, London Guardian. See, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding, folks. They're the ones up in the rhetoric to this level. So I compare him to someone that has now taken over the Vatican and helped cover up all the priest abuse. That's right. But it's okay. The liberal media leaves him alone now because he says he doesn't like Europe being Christian and wants the borders to be open to Muslims to just flood in and do whatever they want and engage in all the different crimes. And I have a whole stack of news here today where they're slitting people's throats and murdering their husband in front of their kids and raping women en masse and, 5 murders a day in little towns now and just total insane bedlam. And Trump says, man, you heard what happened in Sweden last night. Oh, nothing happened in Sweden. Fake news, man. It's crazy. Now I'm starting to settle down a little bit. I've been a little bit angry today, and I haven't hit our big story yet. And I'm not doing this on purpose. I just haven't gotten to it. So I'm going to hit it when we come back and then go to our guest. Donald Trump sends B-52 nuclear bombers to South Korea. I'm going to explain why this is a big deal. After North fires missile at Japan and U.S. warns of overwhelming response. And leftist media, I saw this morning, was like, Trump's a warmonger. Trump's out of control. We have a defense treaty with South Korea and with Japan, with Seoul and Tokyo. And Kim Jong-un is a perfect delusional nobody, never worked a day in his life, being worshipped as a god emperor over his communist hellhole. That every little trendy, spoiled brat in Austin wants to be part of. I'm serious. Or, China, at least, communist Chinese, they love it. Just total fruitcakes, just begging to be slaves. And so he's threatening to attack everybody, so this is an escalation. Again, another precious little commie threatening to start World War III, and now it's Donald Trump's fault because he just moved nuclear weapons, so they can be launched and dropped on top of his head in 30 minutes. And the communist Chinese asked for all this. They're using North Korea to stir stuff up. And China, who the United States built up and who the globalists put commies in charge of, just needs to sit down and shut up. China, you can't even keep your own house in order. You're a bunch of blood drinkers. He was part of a produced video by Prager University called Why I Left the Left that got millions of views. Dave Rubin is one of the few people when I would watch the Young Turks occasionally I could actually listen to. I'm not just saying that. The arrogance, the ignorance of the other people. It was like watching, folks with a third-grade education tell me how rocket science or moon landings operate. And I'm not claiming I'm some super intellectual, but what is this thing on the left where they're just these geniuses that know everything, and everybody else is an idiot, and everybody else is a moron. And then I go out on the streets at these anti-Trump demonstrations, and it's like Day of the Dead, and I don't mean just a few people. Half of them seem like they've gotten out of mental institutions. You'll have hundreds of men come by and go, F you, white male, when they're white guys. They're totally racist against white people, which is just racism to begin with. And none of it makes sense. It's like mass insanity. I never called myself a conservative. The media did because I was pro-gun and pro-sovereignty. But a lot of the stuff the left was for, decriminalization of marijuana. I don't want a bunch of wars. Remember, I was a big liberal. They said when Bush was in. That wasn't the case. But man, there are so many Zombo videos that even our crew shoots in Austin that I can't even play them all. It's not like we're cherry picking. And I mean tongues hanging out, like in the 1970s remake of the Body Snatchers. Maybe we can find that where Peter Sutherland, she goes, oh, it's you. And he goes, points at her. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. And they won't talk to you. They won't give you ideas. Then they just scream, racist, 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 racist. And if we've got reporters that are minorities, they'll scream the same thing at them. It is, I don't know what it is, but it's like one of the ladies on the Young Turks. When they invited me up, I'm walking by at the RNC, and I mean, I could do interviews all day if I wanted to. And they say, hey, you want to come on the show? One of their minions. I'm like, yeah, we're coming back later. So then I thought I was invited. I did jump up without asking, thinking it'd be fun. A lot of folks were doing that. And then they blow up. Then they say Roger Stone wanted to get on there. He was like 30 feet away and wouldn't come on. Then they lied and said, Roger Stone, let me tell you what just happened. About 10 minutes ago, if you didn't see it, Roger Stone tried to rush up here with Alex Jones. And I wasn't putting up with that. No, I jumped up on stage. He didn't do that. And then it was all, I'm a racist. And they say, you're a fat effing this and that. I don't call people fat Fs. I mean, I've been overweight myself. I think it's okay to criticize people that, say, I'll weigh 800 pounds if I want. You're going to pay my medical bills. But I don't hate fat people. I've lost like 80 pounds in the last 5 years. But the point is that they're such hypocrites. And they're banning whiteboards at colleges all over the country because someone might write something. And that's like saying, get rid of books. Someone might write something. Get rid of paper. It's like a new dark age. And I'm a Christian. But I like, the Christianity that actually read the Bible about Christ and all that. I totally love Christ. I love Jesus Christ. I don't love the interpretation of the churches growing up telling me I'm a devil, I'm going to hell, so they're up on some high horse. So I kind of figured it out. And then I noticed other people already figured it out. But I understood more and more. It's like, wait, this is like being screamed at you're going to hell, but it's a liberal hell. And they're the authority and you're the sinner. But instead of being the devil that's influencing me, it's all this evil right-wingness and the fact that I even exist, you see. And so it is by every form a cult. They want to control the language. There's always new language you're supposed to use. They're telling you you can't be male or female or that might hurt somebody. I mean, this is mass insanity. I know there's social engineering involved, but I think it's gotten away from what even Gloria Steinem admitted at the CIA they were doing, with trying to break the family up. So, joining us for the rest of the hour is Dave Rubin on YouTube, Rubin Report. And, of course, I just love the fact that he's already more popular on average, than the Young Turks, who've been around for years and had Google behind them and YouTube behind them. And I should add, we have been banned off Google ad roll now, of that sub-company. We're getting blocked on Twitter and Facebook. So the big age of censorship's here. So thank God we're on over 200 radio stations. And thank God we have our own website, Infowars.com. Because listen, folks, it's intensifying. And we've seen more censorship the last month ourselves than we saw the previous 5 years. So listen, it's accelerating. It's bad. And there may come a time very soon where you can't even hear us on the internet because they're kicking Breitbart off their apps. I mean, this is systematic, okay? So I want to talk to Dave Rubin. We haven't pre-planned this, just about the state of the world, where this is going, how he went from being a, quote, leftist, because I get it. There used to be some good on the left, to just saying these people are insane, and where is this going? Because it seems like in any cult, like Islam, it's got to get more and more radical, because the most radical then becomes whoever is in control. So it's like the left is like a sun imploding. It's like the gravity's a black hole, and the very worst now, the most mentally ill, are in charge. So, Dave Rubin, great to have you here with us today. Of course, great to see you on the Joe Rogan podcast as well.
Yeah, it's good to be with you, Alex. And by the way, I think you might be suffering from a little PTSD because of what happened at the RNC. You forgot to mention that one of their guys spit in your face and then ran away. So, this is the tolerance of the left. And before we even start here, I should say that, the amount of crap that I'm going to get for even talking to you, even though, as you just said, we planned none of this. I spoke to your guy for literally 10 seconds to check audio. Obviously, you're not going to control what I'm going to say. I'm not going to control what you're going to say.
Oh, the left always thinks we're colluding because they would make us have hours of meetings before they talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we don't. So we're going to do this. I have no idea what you're going to ask me. As you know, I'm a free speech absolutist. We can go anywhere. I'm happy to do that.
I want you to, you're a smart guy. I really want to hear wherever you want to go. I've got plenty of stuff to get into. All I'm saying is they're like raging authoritarians calling us fascist when I always really thought of myself as a classical liberal.
Well, look, classical liberal, that really is the new political term that people have to understand. That liberalism at its core is about live and let live. Now, that has nothing to do with the modern left that is about authoritarianism, that is about the collective, that wants to judge us all on these immutable characteristics of color and race and ethnicity and sexuality and gender and all of these things. They keep telling everyone else that they're the racists, they're the bigots, and yet they're constantly focused on those immutable traits. I view the individual as the most important thing. I only judge you, Alex Jones, on your thoughts and your actions. So if you say something that's smart and enlightened and that I agree with, that's fantastic. And if you say something that's nuts and crazy, then I would disagree with you. But I don't think that you, Alex Jones, represent white people or 43-year-old men or guys who live in Austin or any of that stuff. I think you represent you. That is the heart of liberalism. Now, that sounds a lot like modern day libertarianism, and we can get into
it's Martin Luther King
thinking about that. Yeah.
I mean, it's simple. I go to a restaurant, whether white people, black people own it, if the food's good. I buy music no matter what color they are if I like it. I always thought that was what was liberal, is you were open to anything that you liked and enjoyed, and you were tolerant of others, not you will use our exact words and you will do exactly as we say.
Of course, and now they've tricked you to think that if you're a white guy wearing dreadlocks, that you're somehow racist and you're culturally appropriating. And if you eat Chinese food, it's insane. But what you said earlier about the black hole, I think is an interesting analogy here, because it will never end. There is no end to this hole. This is what I've tweeted this a lot, that there's no bottom here. They're never going to get to a place where they go, okay, we got what we wanted, we got the control we wanted, and we have utopia. Because what they're telling you is that if only their guys were in power, if only Bernie was in power and Keith Ellison was in power and all of these far left guys, if only they were in power, magically society would be fantastic.
Well, exactly, but they're trying to bring an actual anti-language, anti-communication, anti-debate. The only place I see that is in the most hardcore cults make you follow only set language. It's always changing. They're always persecuting and, pulling somebody out to peck on them and surround them and bully them. I mean, everything they say they're against is what they are. And I'm asking you, because you've been inside with these people, what the hell's going on? Because they're some of the best comedy out there until you realize it's so dangerous and they've got our kids in schools.
Yeah, well, look, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So I don't think that on face value that all of these people are inherently bad people who are trying to, bring some authoritarian, communist, socialist control. I don't think they even realize what they're doing. I think most of the people, we can talk about some of the leaders and the higher ups and some of the people in media who you mentioned, but I think the average person that is into these ideas truly believes that minorities are oppressed in America, that women are oppressed in America, that Muslims are oppressed in America. We live in the freest, greatest society that there is. I would not want to live in any other country. I'm a married gay man. I don't want any extra credit for it. I wanted equal rights. Now I got it. And now I want to be able to vote the way anyone else.
Let me ask you this. Have you gotten a bunch of hate from right-wingers for that?
No. I mean, the truth is I haven't. The truth is I haven't. And that's a great point. And I'm glad you asked it, because all I've gotten, even every single day, I'd be glad to forward you emails later so that I'm not making this up. Every single day, I get emails from Christian conservatives in the middle of the country saying, you know what, Dave, you're liberal, you're gay, blah, blah, blah. I tend not to agree with you on this or that. You're not a believer. But I absolutely respect your opinions, the way you treat your show, the way you talk to your guests. I've sat across here in my studio is in my home. I have a home studio. I've sat across from people who've told me that they don't believe in gay marriage as they're in my home where I live. Bishop Barron, who's from the Archdiocese here in LA. We had an incredible discussion about it. And guess what? I didn't feel the need to get him to admit that he was for gay marriage. We had a great discussion about it.
And you didn't hit him over the head like they do at these Berkeley events where they're now pepper spraying, tasering people in Missouri. It's getting real. I'm really worried. Do you think that the violence is escalating? And if so, why?
Yeah, well, look, it can only get worse unless the true roots of liberalism come back. And look, I do believe that that's happening, but we have a ton of work to do. But look, if you've pinned all of your intellectual opponents as racists and bigots and Islamophobes and blah, 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 if you've done that repeatedly, you keep pinning yourself into a box. And then eventually what happens, the only way you can get out of that box is violence. So that's why when Richard Spencer, who I would probably disagree with on virtually everything, right?
He still has a right, though, as a white nationalist to go around, just like a Mexican nationalist has the right. And Metro La Raza, same group, just different skin color, same ideology, just a different perspective. They don't deserve to be beat up.
Absolutely, and that's the whole point of free speech. If free speech, everyone says, well, I'm for free speech, but then suddenly when someone says something that they don't like Richard Spencer, then it's okay to punch Nazis. That was,
and then have MSM promote organized violence. That was what was very Nazi-like, was to have the news organizing violence against a group you don't like.
Right. So this concept is crazy. So okay, so if you say, all right, Richard Spencer is a Nazi. Now, first off, I'm not even defending Richard Spencer. I'm defending his ability to speak. That's number one.
Because if he loses his, we lose ours.
Of course, and what the ultimate end game of this, what the next logical step is. So you have people saying they can't speak. Okay, now you move past.
Well, sure.
That.
Hold on a second. This is key. When I was growing up and in college, it was the right wing that wanted to curtail free speech a little bit, and I was against it and didn't like that. It was the left that would always defend it. They were the ones that would say, let the KKK march, and I'd go out and protest them. There's video. Since when did we get that the left, who was always the defenders of free speech, turn into that? And then get back to your other point.
Yeah, well, look, everything is changing. We're in a major horseshoe theory moment right now where the two sides are, the fringes are really becoming one crazy thing. So I would say that the left has gotten much worse just in the last 5 years alone. And it obviously has a lot to do with the way they treat Islam, which Islam as a doctrine, as a set of ideas, is a hugely regressive idea. Yet the progressives somehow treat it at the top of their oppression Olympics as if it's the most virtuous thing. This is crazy. But getting back to the earlier point, the idea about punching Nazis. So if you say, okay, they can't speak. Well, now you say, all right, if they do speak, we're allowed to punch them. Well, what are you really saying? What you're really, when Richard Spencer got punched, he could have been killed, right? I mean, the guy could have hit him in a way that cracked his
hit his head on the concrete.
Yeah, could have been killed. And
I've seen people killed getting hit like that.
Exactly. So what you're saying then is, okay, actually you can kill people that you label Nazis. And then if you say that, well, are we allowed to blow up his house? What if his kid's there?
Yeah, how about his family?
All of those things. And then you got to keep going with the logic. And this is what the left unfortunately doesn't do. Well, what's next? If I, Dave Rubin, a liberal, if I sit down with someone considered to be alt-right, who they'll now label a Nazi, now can you come after me? Am I okay as the subject of violence? And this is the problem. It is a slippery slope. And by the way, it's going to come for everybody. What they don't realize is that Bernie Sanders is a rich white man with 3 houses. He just got a new one on a lake. He has 3 houses. One day, Bernie Sanders will say something that goes against them, and he will be the enemy, because this is an ideology rooted in constant new oppression, and you have to find new enemies to attain power.
Let me raise this next question then. Obviously, race-based politics works. That's why it's gone on all over the world in history, or religion-based. So now the left, where the Democrats were just 60 years ago, they're going back to race-based politics, but with the minorities, and trying to basically invoke this. The Drudge Report has an article today with the Univision host on there, George Ramos, basically saying, hey, we're the new people, we're the majority, get used to it. But again, why are you even identifying as Hispanic? I'll identify as an American, so you got property rights, religious rights, gun rights, and all this other stuff. I would want that birthright. See, I'm thinking about their brains, not what color they are. So then you expand from there. Why would the left, and I think this is their jump the shark moment, openly embrace Islam? You expose it, I expose it, others expose it. Horowitz first exposed it accurately. I didn't believe it 12 years ago when I read his book on Holy Alliance. It was so crazy that the left was going to be allied, but I guess his parents were communists. He knew. They come out and say, we are allied with it. We're spreading it. It's good. All women should wear the hijab. And they have TV ads in Europe, the U.S., saying, join the most radical forms of Islam, which is the most monotheistic, oppressive male hierarchy thing on Earth, Stone Age level, beyond that crazy town crap. I have multiple daughters. I mean, it fundamentally pisses me off. And then they tell me I'm an effing white male that hates women, and at feminist marches, they're running around saying Allah Akbar, which is illegal in an Islamic country. So I'm just saying, this is total insanity. What's going on here?
Yeah, well, first to the Jorge Ramos point, it was interesting. I saw the clip and he said it's not their country, it's ours. But that's exactly what he would say they're saying to him. So this is a very huge flaw in logic. There's a big jump that's missing.
Yeah, the whites are saying this is our country. He's saying, no, it's ours. Well, no, the whites really aren't saying that. They don't want brainwashed leftist Hispanics driving down wages, running around with the social justice warriors. Thank God, though, it's not mainly Hispanics. Why do you think mainly the people running around being the big bullies, or you may disagree, why is it mainly white people and white women?
Well, I think the coming after white people and coming after Christian people and anyone that has any sort of, traditional views on life or anything, it's just incredibly easy. And that goes back to what I said earlier about how I get all this mail now from Christian conservatives and conservatives of all sorts of religions and believers and not believers saying that I have traditional values. I disagree with you on all this stuff, but I like your ability to sit there and have a conversation because that's what liberalism is. Going after Christians is absurdly easy because guess what? They're not going to kill you. They're not going to kill you. And in most cases, actually these days, they don't silence you either. And the proof of that is look what's going on the college campuses. Of course, I know you know this, but wherever Milo speaks, and now it's gone from Milo to Ben Shapiro to Charles Murray and plenty of other people. And I've been protested, which is completely absurd.
Why do they have no idea that what they're doing looks horrible?
I don't think they care. I don't think they care because if everyone that you disagree with
echo chamber
proven that they're a racist and a bigot and a Nazi and a homophobe, then you're morally right. And that also goes to what you said earlier about this site. It's become a religion. These are the people that are supposed to be anti-religion, right? They hate religion. Who do they hate the most? They hate Christian conservatives.
But they act like the most oppressive zealots I've ever seen.
Yeah, and look, and then when you toss Islam into this, and I know it's very important that we separate Islam, which is a set of ideas and a doctrine, versus Muslim people. There are millions and millions and millions.
And I'm not just, I had a lot of great friends in college and still do that are Muslim, but they were people that fled it. And, their moms and sisters aren't wearing hoods over their heads and can have a life. Exactly. I don't want like super poor, third world, orthodox, oppressive, women can't come out without hoods on their heads. That's not acceptable.
Well, not only is it not acceptable, but look, you can look at this woman, Linda Sarsour, who is now a hero of the left, who, if you look on her, she was arrested because yesterday at Trump Tower, I guess, for public disorder or whatever it is. But she's a hero of the left. Oh, there you go. You got it up right there.
She's the fourth from the left.
This woman has repeatedly defended Sharia law publicly on Twitter. And not only that, she's attacked Ayaan Hirsi Ali. There's a tweet. She's since deleted it. She's also blocked me on Twitter, of course, because I called her out on it. But she attacked Ayaan Hirsi Ali and said that something to the effect of she shouldn't have a vagina. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with Ayaan Hirsi Ali. She's a Somali refugee who underwent female genital mutilation.
That's incredible.
Okay, not only did she that, then she was going to be married, I think at 14 years old, to her own cousin in Somalia. She fled Somalia, eventually makes it to Holland, where she's thrilled with freedom. She becomes a member of parliament. And what happens? Her friend Theo Van Gogh, Vincent Van Gogh's grandson, who's doing a documentary on Islam and free speech and some other stuff, is killed in the middle of the street in broad daylight. They pin a note saying, Ayaan, we're coming for you next. She's now moved to the States here and now is perhaps one of the greatest people on earth defending true feminism, defending true Western values and liberalism. And who's she hated by? She's hated by the left.
And let's expand on that, because women under Orthodox Islam are Stockholm syndrome. They're allowed to go out and bully the women in Islam, and now I guess women in the West, into submitting to it. It's like a weird form of cuckolding or something. People don't know what that is. I guess it's where you let like 10 guys have sex with your wife in front of you. There seems to be like this bizarre hatred of the West. So if we bring in the most radical forms of Islam and then hold it up and accept it and then let them, as I've been at the rallies in New York and D.C. and Austin, they're being led by radical Islamicists. And I'm like, is this really happening?
But the thing is, they don't know what's happening. What they think that they're doing, and this is why intentions matter. And it's important for us and for people that actually use logic and reason to look at these people and not say, okay, they're all inherently evil. What's happening is they think that Muslim people are being oppressed, whatever that means. Now, we have no laws against Muslim people. I have Muslim friends. I had Muslim friends over for dinner.
No, I got it. But there's a lot of Muslims that don't get in the melting pot. They want to make us submit.
Sure, absolutely. And that's why we have to fight ideology. Because if you think about the truth of it, is that in any place that Islam, the doctrine of Islam spreads, whether we're talking about in the Middle East or we're talking about in all these places in Europe that are having these huge problems right now, in Paris and in London and in Brussels.
No, wait, Trump's lying. The media said nothing's happening there. Stay right there. Dave Rubin's our guest on YouTube, Rubin Report. And we'll give you his website also when we come back as well. We're going to get into this and where he sees the real classical left versus this new weird cult left, where all this is going, and then to see the so-called right wing being so tolerant and open. I think the left's bizarreness was really a way to educate the right wing.
We're on the march.
Now, I don't want to get into bashing the Young Turks because they've got their own thing and they had their own Islamicist-funded TV show, and they had their own thing on YouTube, backed by YouTube and pushed by YouTube. But the reason it's important is YouTube, Google, more and more is censoring. They're coming in with controls. They admit they're doing it. Twitter and Facebook are really bad. And that's just not right. But I have seen their popularity wane a lot because it's just the left is so ridiculous now. So we're going to talk with our guest, Dave Rubin of daverubin.tv here in just a moment and get into some of the other news around the world, talk about North Korea, talk about government worship, and so much more. But before we do that, we have a lot of great nutraceuticals. And these were developed by the top scientists in the world. That's why third-party sites give us 5 stars, like Power Reviews, you name it. We have come out, after 10 years of research with Dr. Group, with the Myco ZX that supports a normal fungal and yeast balance, which is out of control with most people in their gut, flushes all that out. Proprietary blend of herbs and enzymes made with high-quality ingredients, 120 capsules. This is discounted 10% out of the gates because, by the way, it's going to sell out in like 2 or 3 days. I misestimated again, underestimated it. It's like the toothpaste. It's so popular that sold out in mere days. More of that's going to come in soon. But notice, I don't just say stuff selling out for artificial scarcity or, I mean, this is really happening. Sometimes we go 6 months before something comes in because we can't get the ingredients and have it to the top organic level. So it goes great with the Biome Defense probiotic that is the very best that we have. It's refrigerated. We send it to you. Refrigerated, you don't have to keep it refrigerated, but it's 50 billion live cultures and the extra strength, 25 billion in the regular formula. Goes together perfectly. Infowarsstore.com. The herbicides, the pesticides, the environment, they kill the good flora in your gut. Biome Defense will displace the bad bacteria. That's what it's designed to do because you've lost the good ones. But Myco ZX goes in with healthy known herbs and enzymes and knocks out the yeast and the mold and all the rest of the garbage that is wreaking havoc. I'm going to put out the full interview yesterday from Dr. Group on the shopping cart so folks can see that at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com because it's just amazing how important this is, and your purchase is making the broadcast and our expansion possible. I intend to add a lot more shows, more TV stations, you name it, a lot of big stuff. DC Bureau, that's all getting set up right now because history's happening and we've got to get on the offense. There's a lot of great people we're going to bring into the airwaves as well here. So InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. If you sign up for the free newsletter, we send you exclusive articles and videos. Survival Shield, Nation Iodine, X2, the good halogen is 50% off. We never do that. Also, Prostagard. Leading competitor has the same amount of saw palmetto, and it costs twice as much. But we have 9 other ingredients known to be healthy for your prostate and so much more. InfoWarsLife.com. And that's 50% off if you sign up for the newsletter. We'll send you a promo code today when the email goes out at 4 o'clock Central. PrisonPlanet.com's our backup site. Infowars.com's our main site. I want to talk about censorship and how it's intensifying. But if I seem a little desperate at times, it's we're winning a lot of hearts and minds, and nationalism's exploding, and good things are happening. But they've painted themselves in a corner, as Dave Rubin just said 10 minutes ago. Whether it's the Pope or whether it's Merkel in Germany or Hollande in France or whoever, the Pope says if you like Trump, you like having sex with feces. I mean, I'm not kidding. That's a quote. Or if you're for nationalism. You're a horrible person. The quote was, nationalism and populism is evil. And then Glenn Beck goes on CNN and says, I'm very scared of nationalism. What are you talking about? We barely don't even have a country. So what they're saying is don't even have a country. Just don't even have any rules, have nothing. But then they worship countries like North Korea or Venezuela where the state is God. Then they say today in the news, Trump's a warmonger. Look, Japan's begged for us to send B-52 bombers with nukes. They fired a bunch of missiles over the coast of Japan. They've almost hit the country. They're threatening to nuke it. They're threatening to attack the South, Seoul. It's only 25 miles from the border. They've got 100,000 pieces of artillery aimed at it. This is your communist dreamland with a third-generation hereditary dictator. Put a crown on the guy, and it's Donald Trump's fault. Japan considers first strike options against North Korea since the first time since 1945, changing their constitution because Kim Jong-un disconnected his brother, got caught trying to defect to Disney World. I'm not kidding, in Japan. So he just got assassinated 2 weeks ago. VX nerve gas for daring just try to go to Disney World. That's this cult. And the only place I see liberals crying and screaming in Europe and here, Trump, is when Kim Jong-il died. I'm not kidding. The only parallels I see, here, let's have some audio, is in hardcore Stalinist regimes. And so, again, when I say cult, I don't say this is a joke. If the left, by successive approximation, lets themselves just getting into whatever the media tells them to act like and do, and then, Cuomo says, hey, if your daughter doesn't like seeing a man's penis, a tranny, in her school bathroom, she's got a problem. She's not open. What the hell are you talking about? So it's a control trip. They want to dominate us. They want to control us. Other people get bullied into it. I've been ranting. You've got the floor here, Dave Rubin, again, who defected, again, not from North Korea, but from, the Young Turks helped mow down and kill the Armenians. Why do they have that name? He denies that happened. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I mean, look, as far as the name of the show, I didn't even realize at the time when I started working there that there was this whole thing about the denial and that he had written this thing denying it. Subsequently, he's been challenged on it many times. I don't even, he's an irrelevant buffoon.
But the Turks did kill over 1 million Armenians.
Well, look, the group that formed in the Ottoman Empire that was trying to bring about revolution was known as the Young Turks. So the idea that the name of the show doesn't have anything to do with it is kind of silly.
Turkish.
By the way, for the people that criticize me, well, they say, Dave, you worked there. I did not. I swear to you, I was not aware of this until the summer after I had left already. Was the 100th anniversary of the Armenian genocide, and that's when all the news about this started bubbling up.
Yeah, most people don't know those little factoids unless you are Armenian, and this is undisputed edict by the Young Turks to murder the Armenians. So this is undisputed. Go ahead.
You can look. There's a quote from Hitler, which I'm going to slightly butcher, but he said, when people said, "Well, wait a minute, how are you going to get away with killing all the Jews in Europe?" He said, "Well, look what the Turks did to the Armenians."
Yes.
And they got it. So people can find that quote. That's real. But real quick, I want to back up for a second because you came in from commercial with the Steve Miller Band, and to prove that I don't go easy on the right, I was at a Steve Miller concert about a year ago in Orange County here outside LA, and it's pretty known as a conservative place, and I was busted at a Steve Miller outdoor concert for smoking weed by some angry, right-wing conservative. So I want to be clear on this. I am for liberty. I can smoke some weed.
No, absolutely. I'm not. Absolutely. I'm for decriminalization as well. There's a lot of hypocrites on the right. They're just not as viral. So getting back to, I don't want to talk about the Young Turks all day. It's just the arrogance, and just from what I've seen, I'm not just saying this, it seems like, maybe I'm wrong, even their own fans are turning against them.
Oh, yeah. I see a ton of that, but that's because the left is not liberal anymore. And once you realize that, once that little piece gets pulled out, the deck of cards starts crumbling real quick. And you realize, wait a minute, why is this always about more and more control? Progressives constantly scream about government, right? Government is wrong now, and Trump is evil, and Obama was evil when he was in charge, and George Bush, of course, was evil and all that. But what's the answer? It's always more government. This makes no sense. It's only if their magical people could just be in charge, then everything would be okay. It's a fake utopia that doesn't exist. And
Venezuela and North Korea and communist Russia, all these places are hellholes. Authoritarianism, big government always brings hell on earth, and a little fat guy waddling around with generals.
Yeah, look, there's plenty of things, if you want to go into it. We can discuss plenty of things that we like or dislike about Trump and have a healthy debate on that. But right now, is Trump coming for someone's freedom? Are you the threat to free speech right now? Does that seem like it's coming from Trump, or is it coming from the left? Now, we can talk about what Trump's doing with some of the media stuff, but the simple fact is the media has been horrible. The idea that for the last 8 years they had this White House Correspondents' Dinner, which now Trump's not going to do, that showed you they were throwing it in our face how corrupt they were.
Oh, the Washington Post, everybody says, we've entered a great time of darkness and evil, an attack on the press. Trump's just said he's going to bypass the press, mainstream, because they're a bunch of liars. That's not censoring them. They've posted articles and op-eds in every major newspaper I've seen saying, kill Trump, have riots, overthrow things, beat people up. They've got the faculty at these universities is in the news bailing out the people that attack men, women, and children. So the claim that he's at war with speech when the left is the one trying to control speech and beating people up is just crazy.
Well, by the way, if he was for censoring the media, he would be trying to shut down news organizations. Now, I would be for a huge opening of the White House press corps. So I would let in a lot of new organizations, which, by the way, he has let in some. You know, some people were saying, well, he's censoring the New York Times and CNN and a few others. He didn't let them into the gaggle, which is an off-the-record thing that they do after. You're not automatically entitled to that. Now, all that being said, does he have an authoritarian streak? Absolutely. Do I like all of the executive orders? No, and I didn't like them under Obama, and I didn't like them under George W. Bush. I think we should actually be governed by the Constitution, which means that the legislative branch, Congress, should write laws.
Sure, but they keep advocating their responsibility, so
Absolutely.
At least Trump's using the executive power to transfer power like TPP, killed that back to the people.
So, Alex, that right there, that's a great meaty place to have a conversation, that Congress is abdicating their power. Where are the laws? Have they tried to pass any law since Trump has become president?
No, finally they're trying to do this repeal, but it's not even a repeal. It's another screw job the Republicans cooked up.
Yeah, look, and of course, we should all be for single payer. That's the most sensible thing, that there is it's a combination of public and private. Now, I get it. If you're a pure libertarian in the purest sense, you want the government to have nothing to do with it. But in a functioning state that we have, that a single payer makes the most sense, where we have private insurers and it's just sort of facilitated by the government. I personally think that's okay, but I'm happy to argue with people on whether that's okay. But the point is, the meaty part of this is what you hit on a second ago, which is we have three branches of government. One's supposed to write laws, one's supposed to sign them into law, and one's supposed to confirm whether they're legal or not. And what we're doing, and what the presidents have done now for a long time, is funnel all of that power to the executive. So for those
now the left is freaking out because the executive was their god when it was a Democrat or a Republican they controlled. Now they're totally freaked out because they've transferred all the power to the executive, and now they're completely freaked out by Trump.
Exactly. So then what's the answer to that? The answer isn't, oh, it's only okay when it's your guy. So
no, transfer power back to the states, back to the Congress, and back to the people. But Trump's actually trying to get them to do a health care bill. They don't even want to do Congress is the worst group. I mean, there's no doubt that they literally just want to pass authority on and just be lazy.
Yes, you're 100% right. That's the answer. The answer is return to what our founders wanted, which was limited federal control. If you don't like Trump, and there are many reasons not to like him, if you don't like him, the answer isn't to try to upend democracy, to try this hashtag resistance, and to literally try to impeach. What are you saying? You want to impeach him, and then we'll impeach Pence, and then we're going to install Hillary or a Democrat? I mean, what are you actually...
By the way, they even talk about disconnect, Dave Rubin, the Alex Jones Show, folks, if you just tuned in. Again, Dave Rubin of the Dave Rubin Report on YouTube, a hit show, formerly with the Young Turks, the Young Turds, as I call them. Where does this go from that point? Because they're trying to say the state's God. Now, exactly, they want to remove Trump, but then they actually say, Michael Moore said, we want to install Hillary back in, who's like a walking dead zombie, incredibly corrupt. Nobody wants the Bushes. Nobody wants the Clintons. What's the elite thinking? If they'd have run some half-decent person, they would have beaten Trump. Again, they're so entitled, not just the grassroots of the left, but the elite of it are just crazy.
Well, think about what Michael Moore said. I mean, really, you have to take everything as before we said there's no bottom with the left. Well, every time that anyone gives you a fact, you have to take it to where the...
He used the word install.
Right. Okay. So let's just say we impeach Trump, we get rid of Pence, the whole administration goes down. Somehow, I don't think there's any legal way we could do it, but somehow we install Hillary as president, or just any Democrat. We we grabbed Biden's old bones. He's now president. Well, what's the next step? The next step is you would basically be saying we now have to go to war with Russia because they installed a puppet president in the United States. So if that happens, guaranteed, we go to war with Russia. I can tell you right now, I don't want to go to war with Russia. I see no reason to go to war with Russia.
I was about to say, if Russia was expanding, threatening us, Russia can barely stabilize itself. Clearly, China and Islam, radical Islam, are the existential threats.
Yeah, well, look, 4 years ago, what happened? It was about 5 years ago now in that debate when Barack Obama said to Mitt Romney after he said that Russia's our biggest geopolitical foe, Obama said, I want my, you want the 80s foreign policy back. Now, obviously, there is some stuff going on with Russia, and we have to treat that, we have to be transparent about it and figure out what's going on here, really. But the bigger point is that if you give these protesters, if you give them what they want, it really is dismantling of democracy. So I
agree. So let me ask you this. They believe their bullying and intimidation is going to work. I don't see that happening. The Democrats, 5 years ago, they would have delivered, probably put the Republicans out of business except for a regional group in the South. I think they were right. Now they're the party that lost almost all the state houses, the governorships, the House, the Senate. And it's a total collapse, as Steve Bannon has said. If they deliver on prosperity and kind of a populist conservatism, but are also inclusive, which Trump's doing, his whole family, a lot of them are liberals, but real liberals, it's going to break the back of the collectivists. So where do they go? I mean, let me ask Dave Rubin, a smart guy that's joining us right now. What are the different paths? Kind of like choose your own adventure novels, working in like 3 ways. What are the different avenues we're going down here?
Well, first off, just to your point about Trump's family, I had Donald Trump Jr. on my radio show a couple of years ago, way before, Trump was running for president. I was on the OutQ channel, the LGBT channel on Sirius XM, because that's where they threw me as a gay person, even though I wanted to do politics, but that's fine.
The left does that, where we're like, they pigeonhole you and say who you are, because exactly.
Yeah. So I had Donald Trump Jr. on. His dad, this is way before his dad's running for president. And we asked him about gay marriage, and he said at the time, that Donald Trump Jr., was 100% for it. He said, I know my dad is not for it. This is a couple of years ago. He said, my dad is not for it, but my dad has always taught us to say what we think and believe what we believe. And I thought that's a pretty good mark of a person. And by the way, I've been trying to explain to my friends on the left for quite some time now that the idea that Trump is anti-gay is insane. Not only is he a lifetime New Yorker who obviously was surrounded by plenty of gay people, he got a standing ovation at the RNC at the acceptance speech when he mentioned gay rights. He had Peter Thiel as one of his good buddies and closest confidants right now, who's openly gay, obviously. And Peter Thiel was at the RNC, said, I'm a proud gay man, got a standing ovation for it. And what did Trump do? He also, kept the LGBT workplace.
Well, exactly. And some right-wingers, people say, this is horrible, don't do this. The point is, the left has groups they think they own, creating all the hate and making us all hate each other when there's no reason to do that. And it's a cult. So Trump is unifying the country. That's what we need.
So, Alex, this is a great point also, because I know that just by appearing here with you, I am going to get a pretty decent level of hate. People are going to say, oh, you're with Alex Jones, and they'll send me videos of you screaming, and they're going to say, hey, it's
out of context stuff.
Right. So, be that as it may, they're just going to, a certain amount of people they're not going to listen to anything we said. They're not going to counter any of the ideas. They're just going to throw hate. And that is for those of us that actually, whether we agree or disagree politically, but for those of us who want a better country based in our own ability to build a better society.
We need to start talking to each other.
Yeah, we got to start talking to each other.
Exactly. That's what the colleges used to be, was an open discussion. Now they're the most uninclusive place. How did we come here? Final segment with our guest, then Jon Rappoport coming up. I'm Alex Jones. All right, I'm going to do 5 minutes for the next hour. Then Jon Rappoport will be joining us and hosting the 4th hour. A lot of news I haven't gotten to yet. I'm going to hit in the next segment. Nightly news is tonight, 7 o'clock Central. Look, whether you like people that are Islamic or whether you like people that are Orthodox Jews or Orthodox Hindus, whatever, there are groups that are nice and aren't violent. There are groups that are. But when you look at Islam, it's like 1,000 to 1 any other group that's violent. Every once in a while, is there some Christian does something? Yeah. Is there some, in the name of the Christianity? So I don't say all this to attack Islam. Islam has been completely radicalized. It's been absolutely turned into this weapon. And then the left, and I was, kind of late to coming to the fact that Islam was so out of control. I didn't want these wars, any of it, because I knew it would actually stir it up. But now this alliance with the left, it's too much. But it's the same thing, people that want to sit there and bash people for their sexual preferences or whatever because it makes them feel good. I don't really ever hear that or see that. I've heard that some growing up, but very rarely. The left wants to exaggerate all that to make groups feel bad so they can go be in the globalist leftist cult. And that's why being inclusive is so important, folks. Now, once the left is inclusive, they add 100 new genders to imaginary stuff, so you can never be inclusive enough. It's kind of like adding new versions of a video game, to where it's basically unwinnable. But it's just going into total insanity, and Trump's doing the right thing. I don't like the fact he's supporting this health care bill. I think it's better than Obamacare, but not what we said. We want to repeal. And I think Trump's letting us have a debate on that. But overall, I would have rooted for Obama if he was trying to turn our jobs back on and stuff. I mean, I don't want to fight Republicans or Democrats or anybody. I really want prosperity in the future for my children. Dave Rubin, where do you see this world going? Closing comments.
Yeah, well, first off, I checked my Twitter during the break there. People are telling me I got to ask you about these gay frogs. Is there anything I need to know real quick?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, they take clips out where I covered a BBC article where they said they would drop gay bomb pheromones on the Iraqis. And then I said, I didn't say it was really gay frogs. I said there's these estrogen mimickers that are causing asexuality, all sorts of confusion in species across the board. I know there's always been gay people forever. And I said that in a larger rant. And then they attacked me about gay frogs. And then I yelled about the gay frogs. I mean, look, 2 weeks ago, they had Colbert cut a clip saying, I'm anti-gay. No, I said in the clip, I'm not anti-gay. It's not like I'm hiding what I say on here. They're so deceptive now, Dave, that it's just reached a new level.
That's a great point also, because what's happening now is there's a gajillion people watching this, and a certain amount just hate, right? They just hate. So all they want to do is wait for the moment they can selectively edit something I say, selectively edit something you say, take a question from you and put in a different response from me. And then they get that, they spread that around, people retweet it, they go, look how crazy these people are. And then we have to spend time cleaning up the mess. And that's mentally exhausting.
But the good news is people that do that get discredited, and then people know where. It's like Fox News played a clip where I said Hillary was killing kids in a basement. I said Hillary killed kids by funding radical Islam that sold girls into sex slavery. The clip clearly says it at the front and the back, but they took it out of context and said, I said it was happening in a pizza place.
But Alex, this is why this is why exactly doing what we're doing right now is the most important thing there is, because most people want to live their life. They don't care how you live their life as long as they live you live your life, they live their life. It really is as simple as that. And when we can get to that, you find it very easy. Even right now on my show over the last couple of weeks, and I hope you'll come on in when next time you're in LA.
Sure.
But, I found it now easy to build bridges with guys that 5 years ago I would have said I could never sit down with. Guys firmly conservative.
Isn't that the internet, though? I think that's why terms left and right are becoming obsolete.
Yeah.
We're all finding out how much we're like each other.
Yes, and how beautiful is that? And that's why silencing the people on the internet is the scariest thing. So you've talked a little bit before about, some of the things that are happening right now. I did an interview about 3 weeks ago with Fleming Rose. He was the editor of the Danish newspaper that printed the Muhammad cartoons, 10 years or so. This guy is a free speech absolutist. He doesn't have an iota of hate in his body. I spoke with him at UCLA that same evening at a perfectly peaceful event, which was great. YouTube demonetized our videos on that. We didn't, there was no hate. There was no racism.
Dave, we're out of time, but come back soon. We come to Austin in April. Please come see us. I'm going to come back at the fourth hour. Great point. Yeah, free speech is under attack, folks, so support it. They think they can bully us. They think they can win. They're not going to win. We'll be back with the fourth hour. Thank you, Dave. All right, I'm Alex Jones. Infowars.com. Spread that link. They're trying to censor it. Jon Rappoport's coming up in the next segment. What an epic time to be alive, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so honored to be here, to be part of this family, my great crew, all of you, the listeners and viewers. I really mean it. This is true community. And I want other people, regardless of what color they are, where they're from, or all these things that used to divide us, to realize that I believe in humanity and success and empowering the individual. And I believe your success doesn't hurt my success. We have unlimited energy, unlimited ideas, unlimited potential. The zero-sum game is the enemy. The non-zero-sum game is the key. It's king. I'll talk briefly with Jon Rappoport after the break and turn the reins over to him. But we're living in incredible times. We're living when the CIA has become a rogue agency. So is most of the federal government, the State Department, you name it. There are patriots inside of it exposing what's happening. All this information comes out showing these huge crimes that have been committed against the American people. And they just turn around and say, it's no big deal. And they turn around and say Trump might be impeached for saying Obama spied on him. I mean, everything's being spied on. It's bravada stacked on top of bravada. And as soon as people see all this chutzpah and con artists, gaming for what it is, it's game over. And that's why they want to dumb the culture down, because only the stupidest, most naive, dim-witted person would buy this. It's amazing. I mean, a month ago, they said they were tapping and tracking everything that the Trump Tower was doing and had been watching them. Then they said, oh, we never did that. What do you mean? It's crazy we're spying on you. It doesn't work. And now the so-called left is running around as the handmaiden of radical Islam, and they're teaching it everywhere. It's like, wow. What freakazoid planet did I wake up on? And I was all against going and bombing the Middle East and stirring up that area. I don't want to hurt those people, because I knew they were being set up to bring down the borders and flood us with it. You don't think the globalists just want to have them starving to death in a squalor, do you? They want you under their control as well. Now, I've not done the best job plugging here today, just because I get so obsessed with the news and the info. It's such a passion, I tend to not do it. But I'm glad that a tiny fraction of you actually believe me on things like the products, because if it wasn't for that tiny fraction, we wouldn't be reaching 50 million, 45 million people a week conservatively. But I do love that fraction of folks that buy the Trump Pence 2020 shirts just to stand up for free speech and spread the word, support the broadcast. Free shipping until next week, $9.95 for those shirts. You can't beat it. We've got the new anti-fungus formula that flushes it out of the guts, the fungus and the mold. Myco ZX, the very best healthy system way to do that. I've never seen a product sell like this. Our audience is really informed about it's not just bacteria, it's the mold, it's the yeast. It's out of control. You can get it 10% off with a probiotic biome defense, 50 billion live and active cultures, or the 25 billion. That's the extra strength, 50 billion. You can get those together at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLive.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. I got to tell you, sometimes I order a big, giant amount of something and we can't sell it, even though it's a great product. And then sometimes I order a bunch of something and we spend all the money we got to order a big shipment and it just sells out. And you're like, well, then that's a good problem to have. Yeah, except you never know what everybody's going to buy and what they're not going to buy. It's crazy. And so it'll probably take us, I don't know, months, they're saying, to get more of this, because everything's tested to California standards that are almost impossible to be at. I was telling a group the other day, I said, let's take some of the stuff out of DNA Force, because it'll be sold out for 6 months, trying to test it and test it and test it. The air has more lead and arsenic in it than what you can have in herbs and in compounds. But nevertheless, almost all our products are California standard. When they're not, we end up just pulling an ingredient out. So we've got Myco ZX right now, and boy, if I'd ordered 10 times of this, we'd be funding ourselves nicely, but we're not. It's going to sell out probably by Saturday or Sunday. I'm going to keep it discounted. I should be smart and actually up the price, but I'm not going to do that. I want you to see how great it is and keep buying it and help support the broadcast in the future. I treat you like I want to be treated, but get it today. It's about to sell out. But think about it. We told you 18 years ago about the cameras and microphones listening to you with keyword software. Now it's all out in the open. We told you about the cancer viruses added to the vaccines. It's out in the open. And more, it all comes out. All being thrown in your face. And the Pope comes out, who calls Christianity, disgusting, the roots of it in Europe, and open the border to Islam. He says that populism is evil. That's a quote. That's in the London Telegraph today. Populism is evil. The people. What's populism? The rule of the people. The people. Pope Francis issues a veiled warning about Donald Trump. Populism is evil. No, he said the people are evil. And he's the greatest hypocrite behind multi-hundred-foot-tall walls saying, take refugees who are military-age men. So, across the planet, people from Brazil to Japan, to Russia, to Europe, to England, to Iceland, to the United States, everywhere. Even the sniveling, cute boy of socialism, Trudeau, has to be nice to Trump now because he knows the real numbers are. Trump's super successful, super popular. Trump's made a lot of really good moves to devolve the power from the elite to the people, to cut taxes, to get rid of regulations. This new Paul Ryan thing, it's better than Obamacare, but it's still bad. I want it repealed completely. That's, I think, Trump's first big problem. I said it was a problem. He had the Attorney General recuse himself. Turns out he wasn't behind that. Totally made up. So we've reached a moment now that I don't know what you call it in history, but North Korea suddenly threatening to attack Seoul, launching missiles over the coast of Japan. Trump's had to move B-52s in with nukes. Good things are happening, but remember, the globalists created World War I and World War II in their own admissions to bring in a League of Nations and a UN. So I don't think we should celebrate too much. We should be glad we've come this far. But the dark forces, the twisted forces, hell-bent on sucking off humanity and keeping us in basically mass mental illness aren't going to give up easily. So my good buddy and a great talk show host is going to take over with the balance of the hour, Jon Rappoport, NoMoreFakeNews.com. He's had that URL, 16 years? CNN's dropping the term fake news because it got thrown back on them so much. They're calling it unverified now and banning us when we have a senator on. Oh, you have the senator on Rand Paul about his bill. Facebook, we're going to delete that. Not because it wasn't credible, because it was credible. So the great battle is now. It's intensifying, and people need to know we're seeing more censorship the last 2 weeks we've seen in the last 5 years. So don't take the broadcast for granted. Don't take your own speech for granted. Use it now. Be involved. John, I want you to take over. I always enjoy listening and watching while I work around the office and at night during the rebroadcast. But you've heard me set the table for this. More's happening now in a month than happened in a year now. That we're entering a major time of turning, of change. And because of technology, obviously, it's accelerated greater than any change we've ever seen. The energy, just intellectually, but the energy I feel is tectonic. It's good, it's bad, it's twisted, it's explosive. I think we are in an explosion right now, and I don't think we realize exactly how big it is or what it is because we're in the explosion.
Agreed. And the people who are promoting the dark side, they feel incredibly threatened. You know, and it's been accelerating over the last 2 years. It's like, the genie popped out of the bottle. As long as the election looked like it was going to be a snoozer, Jeb Bush, Hillary Clinton, media were complacent, everything is going along, which means the globalist agenda of destruction is proceeding. And all of a sudden, this cowboy appears out of nowhere and says, well, the first thing is, we don't want globalism. People go, what is that? That's meaning you lose your job. It goes out of the country. We're going to bring all that back. What? Yeah, because you see all these corporations have been let to go out of the country, and then they ship the goods back here, and they don't pay.
And all we need is each other, and other nations need each other. We can still trade, but it's about us again. I mean, look at Jamie Dimon. This is key. Dimon says Trump has reawakened animal spirit in the U.S. Maybe no way to stop the recovery. They're trying to block it. But notice he calls it animal. He means human. Populism. Yeah. They think humans evil. They act like damn aliens. I'm not saying they are, but in their own language, we're animals. We've got to be dominated. Yeah, but it's true. I am an animal. I am a human made in the image of God, but I guess I'm still a biological creature. I want to be free. I want success. Damn right, Jamie Dimon. It's an animal spirit. It's a caveman spirit. And that's not primitive. What you've made us is a slug-like. I'm ranting, but let's talk about that, and then I'm going to let you take over.
Sure. Because these people, from their elevated high platforms look down on everybody else and they say, well, these are the animals that are out of control. We are the leaders, and so we have to reprogram them to suit us so that they become obedient, complacent,
selfishness.
And they go along with the agenda, right? And that's what they're about. That's their whole idea. We're going to reprogram the planet, and we'll lead us into the...
That's right. The plants aren't right. We're going to control the atmosphere. We're going to control the plants and animals. Exactly. We're going to re-engineer everything because, this sucks. We need to make it a lot better like North Korea did.
Exactly. That's their plan. That's their idea. And so people say, well, that's not going to happen. We don't want that. So that suddenly makes us, what, a populist? Yeah, I would like to survive, if you don't mind. I'd like to be free. In fact, I'm going to be free no matter what you do. And there are millions of people like me all over the world, more than millions. If you want to call that populism, fine. We call it freedom. So you better watch out.
So the Pope's really saying freedom is evil.
Yeah, that's right. He's saying freedom is evil. Control is good. Top-down control is good. Ignorance is good. You want to know the way to enlightenment? You follow what we tell you to follow. Here are the rules. Here's what you have to memorize. You can only go through us to get above. I mean, that's the whole theory of this kind of, religious insanity.
You got to go through the priest to find God.
Got to go through the priest. Wow. Where did that come from?
But Christ said the opposite. He said, you don't.
Yeah. He said all kinds of things that were completely, but supposedly at the same time, he said, here, you guys, you're going to build my church for me. Oh, we'll be happy to do that. But of course, we're going to make it into a giant control mechanism that's going to suck in as much of the planet as we possibly can. So for them, populism is completely evil because it means people are standing up for themselves and saying, well, we don't need you. Thank you very much. That's fine. If we want God, we can find our own individual way there. We don't need to go through all this, maze that you set up for us.
A maze full of pedophiles.
Yeah, that's right. A maze full of pedophiles on top of that. Right. Exactly.
Doesn't sound like a fun maze to be in. Take over, Rappoport. You're awesome.
Thank you, Alex. You too. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. Let's see. We got a few minutes before the break. Let me remind you, love the name of this product, Caveman. You know, some products compromise with their name. This one doesn't. Caveman, Ultimate Paleo Formula, InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsStore.life. 33% off introductory pricing. True Paleo Nutrition, bone broth, turmeric root, chaga mushrooms, 7 superfoods. Limited time, 33% off. And we're talking about nutraceutical science, ancient nutrition at the same time, bone broth, help support healthy muscles and connective tissue, do battle on the cellular level and help fight free radicals. Other compounds are doing that in the Caveman formula. Collagen works to aid healthy tendons, ligaments, muscle tissue. Support InfoWars, support a product, support your own health. That's the win-win situation. 33% off. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com. By the way, what Alex and Rubin were talking about in the last hour, atrazine, that's the name of the pesticide, that was discovered in many animal studies to cause gender flip, hermaphroditic, animals born developing male organs and female organs, both within one individual animal, so on and so forth. There you go. These guys here at InfoWars, I don't know how they do it. If you're watching this, there's a word I say, and then all of a sudden the article appears. Pesticide atrazine can turn male frogs into females. But of course, this is a horrendous thing to say to a what? What do you call these people? I don't even know anymore. The I'm triggered people, the I need a safe space people, the people who say that they're liberals, but they're obviously totally involved with socialism, communism, total control, whatever. Control of language, control of speech. You can't talk about a pesticide that's destroying people and causing these gender-bending changes, because that is somehow amounts to what? A terrible attack on the gay community? How is that possible? How is that possible? If a pesticide is destroying lives, how is that possible? We're not supposed to talk about that? We're going to go to a break. We'll be back for the rest of the fourth hour. Jon Rappoport, InfoWars. Jon Rappoport back here at InfoWars in the fourth hour. I've got some things to say about ObamaCare, ObamaCare light, ObamaCare heavy, ObamaCare no, yes. Look, any compulsory national health insurance plan where you've got to be in it, you can't get out of it, or you pay a penalty, that's taking your freedom away. I don't care how it's structured or who's in charge or what they call it or who voted for it or whatever. Because implicit in all these plans, especially in Obamacare, is that more and more over time, the government decides what good health care is. What you get, in other words, from the doctor, and what you can't get. Now we're getting down to the basics, the nub of the situation. Over time, the government decides, here's a giant list of all the possible diseases and disorders, and here are the permitted treatments for all those diseases and disorders, you see? And the list grows and grows, and what they throw out grows and grows. And all these natural health practitioners who think that they're going to get a good deal out of this plan because they can attach themselves in some way to the ObamaCare version that's going to eventually come out, are fooling themselves. Now, many natural health practitioners already see the handwriting on the wall, but there are others who think, wow, this is a good deal. This makes us almost like real doctors. You know, come on, wake up. Wake up. This is about enforced medical care. This is about the medical cartel. This is about the medical police state. And as an investigative reporter for the last 34 years, gee, it just so happens I know a very great deal about this medical cartel. A very great deal. So I've been warning people all along since the first glimmers of Obamacare occurred all those years ago, watch out, because you're going to enter into a medical prison where more and more you're limited in what you can get and what you can't get, what you can choose, what happens to your freedom. And as it turns out, of course, medical treatment, certainly in the US and all around the world, is getting more and more toxic. I've cited this review, I don't know, 5,000 times now, but I never tire of it. July 26, 2000, Journal of the American Medical Association, Dr. Barbara Starfield, Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, all mainstream, all not only mainstream, but insider mainstream. Is U.S. health really the best in the world? That was the title of her review. I interviewed her in 2009. We went deeper into this, but her conclusion was, and it's backed up by other citations that I have quoted at No More Fake News. Every year in the U.S., medical system kills 225,000 people. Okay? That's a conservative estimate. 225,000 people killed. We're not even talking yet about maimed, but killed. That would be 2.25 million killings per decade. That's one of the things you get when you get a compulsory national health insurance plan called Obamacare, or call it whatever else you want, Orion Care, I don't care. That's one of the things you get. That's part of the secret. That's part of the secret deal, the secret plan, the secret Rockefeller globalist plan. Because, look, people say, "Oh, that's a big conspiracy." You mean they want to kill all these people? Well, if you know it's happening and you've known about it for a long time and you don't do anything about it whatsoever and you never try to fix it, and in fact, your brand of medicine, pharmaceutical medicine, is killing roughly half that number of the people that I just quoted on an ongoing basis, wouldn't you say that's sufficient for suspicion that you, the globalist elite, A, know about this, and 2, want it to happen? Come on. Come on. That's just the beginning of what I'm going to talk about here. The silent medical war against the people. Jon Rappoport, 4th hour, Infowars. We will be back. Jon Rappoport, back in the 4th hour of Infowars, talking about Obamacare, light, heavy, in, out, upside down, whatever they're going to do with it. And again, I want to impress upon you, this is getting people into the system. If it's compulsory, if you don't have a choice about it, if you have to either do it or you pay a fine or a tax or whatever they want to call it, it's compulsory and they want you in the system, and the system has big-time dangers. I gave you the stat, the Starfield stat in the last segment. Medical system in the U.S. kills 225,000 people a year, conservative estimate, or 2.25 million people per decade, also conservative estimate. That's not from me. That's from the Journal of the American Medical Association, July 26, 2000. I want to get into something more, if you want to call it even more chilling than that. The next generation of vaccines. Now, what does that have to do with Obamacare? Well, if you're in the system, it's this way. The funnel gets narrow and narrow as you move through. Well, you know, last year we said it didn't matter whether you did this or that, but now if you're part of the system, really, we want you to do this. And then later that becomes, well, if you don't do it, we kick you out of the system. But then we fine you. And then later on, it becomes, you can't get out of the system. The system is everywhere. That's called the evolution of destructive systems. That's the way it works. Next generation of vaccines will be included as part of this system, and it will follow that evolution. They're called DNA vaccines. The article appeared 2015, I'm going to say April, New York Times. I wrote a couple of pieces about this. Screw in your brains real tight on this because you want to understand this. What the genetic researchers are saying is, look, human clinical trials are already underway. Tests. That's 2015. We synthesize a gene that we say can produce immunity to a specific disease. Here it is. We load that gene onto a virus. We inject the virus into the body. The gene drops off and is incorporated into your DNA, thus immunizing you against the disease, just like we said. Of course, it permanently alters your DNA. Got it? And in the Times article, they interviewed Nobel Prize winner Dr. David Baltimore, and he said, well, yes, very interesting. He said, of course, I could see how some people might be a little leery about having their DNA changed. Really? You think so? On top of that, no guarantee of immunity. But let's put that aside, because what we're talking about is re-engineering your DNA and everybody's DNA who receives the next generation of vaccines, not only now on the drawing boards, but in clinical trials of humans. And then, doesn't it follow as the night to day that if your DNA is permanently altered, the next generation's DNA, when you become mommy, daddy, that will also be altered because that's what you're handing down, and so on and so forth, thus re-engineering the entire human race. Much more to the story. I will continue that, but let's talk about a natural product at InfowarsStore.com, InfowarsLife.com, the all-new MycoZX fungus and yeast cleanser. So we're talking about Candida. We're talking about fungal problems. Candida alone releases over 80 known toxins which can weaken the body's defenses and cause the mucous membranes of the gut to start leaking. Yeast overgrowth is even linked to an average weight gain of 32.5 pounds. MycoZX is an all-natural fungus and yeast cleanser by Infowars Life that uses organic herbs and enzymes to activate your body's own defenses. 7 of the most powerful organic and wildcrafted ingredients designed to attack and melt away the membrane of yeast and fungal organisms. Fight back against hidden yeast and fungus with MycoZX at InfowarsLife.com and get free ship this week alone. Limited special here is 10% off when you get MycoZX with the powerful Biome Defense Probiotic on InfoWarsLife.com. There it is. Genetically engineered so-called vaccines that alter your DNA and everybody else's DNA. Of course, they're not vaccines. It's genetic intrusion, invasion. And like I say, once you impose a compulsory national health insurance plan on a country, you are now setting the stage. You're setting the table. This is the op. This is the covert op. Once we've got them in the system, we can do whatever we want with them in terms of the actual medical treatment that we're giving them. Hey, you're part of the system. You're getting a great deal here. Blah, 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 blah. Hold up your arm, roll up your sleeve. Here we go with the injection. This has got a gene in it that's going to immunize you against the disease. Oh, really, doctor? Yes, absolutely. Of course, it will permanently alter your DNA, but that's all right. Don't worry about that. Unbelievable. Where are the page one headlines? How does that not lead the nightly news and lead to all kinds of investigative journalism? Let's let the hounds loose at the major networks and the major newspapers and find out why these people think that they can reprogram the human race. No, none of that is happening. That's not their job. They're in cahoots with these people. They're inside the medical cartel themselves. This is what I've documented for over 30 years now. You can't really talk about mainstream medical reporters and mainstream news and the medical cartel as being separate entities. The marriage was consummated a long time ago. A long time ago. It's up to us, and it's up to independent media to start blowing the whistle on things like this. And this is a heavy one, folks. A really heavy one, because what are we talking about here? You open this door with so-called DNA vaccines, you're now talking about unlimited genetic experiments, covert, with surveillance tracking of the recipients who don't know they're the recipients to see what the responses are going to be over time. Part of the reason for the surveillance state. Face it. All right, so we think we've got a gene synthesized here that's going to create, what should we call it, more obedient, compliant, passive individuals. Let's try it out and see what happens. On the other hand, we think we may have a gene over here that we synthesized that could create a jump in IQ. Let's try it on these people over here and see what happens. Of course, nobody's going to know except us that we're doing this. We think we have a gene that actually works quite well to induce slow motion infertility and sterility. Let's try that out. Here's a whole country over here. Let's do that. And let's see what the statistics show us. We can always explain away the lowered birth rate by saying, oh, we can attribute that to the rise of the middle class and to cleaning up the environment and so on and so forth, and astute medical interventions in crises. Sure, we've got unlimited cover stories for that. See what I'm getting at here. See where this is going. And yet, it could be heralded within a national health insurance program. Hey, step right up and get your DNA vaccine. This is the latest and the greatest, and we're treating everybody to it because it's part of your right to have this, and your children, and your babies, and your grandmother and grandfather. Everybody gets this one, folks. It's just part of what we're doing to share and care and help humanity improve its status and future. That's the way these things work. That's how they're promoted. And you will get untold numbers of idiots who will support this. Absolutely. Because somewhere in their brains, they've been indoctrinated to believe in the idea of doing good. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it means. They just want to do good for others. That's the way they've been indoctrinated. So they're sort of waiting for somebody to tell them, what does it mean to do good? Please explain. Well, for example, DNA vaccines, next generation, is going to be wonderful. We'll immunize everybody and so forth. Oh, good. That's doing good. Yes, I'll help you out. I'll do whatever I can. I'll volunteer. I'll hold posters. I'll sit in drugstores and scoop people up and bring them over for vaccine injections. Oh, yeah, this is wonderful. I found the way. I now have found the way. Indeedy do. You have found the way. You found the road to perdition, my friend. Yes, indeed. I'm looking at other frauds that will be involved here. Epidemic treatments. Yes, we just announced a new epidemic. Yes, threatening the globe, indeed. But you're part of the National Health Insurance Plan, compulsory. And so you'll be receiving the vaccine and the drugs and all of that straight away. Yes, you'll be at the head of the line and so on and so forth. Turns out the epidemic is a total fraud. Never happened, never will. You want an example? I've mentioned it before. Screw in your brain real tight again on this one. 2009, late summer, early fall, CBS investigative star reporter Sharyl Attkisson, working at CBS, uncovers an incredible thing. At the height of the swine flu epidemic, the CDC in America stopped counting cases altogether and didn't tell anybody they were stopped counting. Well, that's their job. That's what they do. If they don't do that, they have no reason to exist. Why did they stop counting? They're claiming there's a whole bunch of swine flu cases during the summer. Sure, absolutely, 10,000, 12,000, whatever. But they stopped counting. Why? So Attkisson investigates, and what does she find out? The overwhelming number of blood samples taken from the most likely swine flu patients in America are sent to laboratories. And the overwhelming majority, way, way up there, of all those blood samples are coming back with no trace of swine flu, no trace of any other kind of flu. The whole thing is a hoax. The entire thing is a massive, massive hoax. She publishes that story on the CBS News website, and suddenly everybody at CBS wakes up to realize what they've just done. They've exposed one of the most gigantic medical hoaxes in memory. And now Attkisson and her editor are trying to get this story on the national nightly CBS News, which would be a much bigger deal, because now that would raise hell. That would raise an incredible uproar. And now they're shut down. Dead in the water, story's over, never going to show up again. Bye-bye. Never happened. Don't worry. Just keep your eyes straight ahead and walk and so forth. That's what I mean by an epidemic hoax. And of course, all the time of this gigantic hoax, people are being told, you got to get the vaccine, you got to get the vaccine. This is great. Vaccine that caused a whole lot of serious health problems with people. Whole lot of serious problems. But you got to get it because swine flu's coming. The whole thing was a gigantic hoax. And yet, because I haven't gotten to the punchline yet, and this is a real boggler, roughly 3 weeks after Attkisson published the story on the CBS News website, the CDC comes along and announces that their best estimate of the actual number of swine flu cases in America is, drum roll, 22 million. 22 million. Not a peep from anybody. Not a peep. 22 million. From 0 to 22 million. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And in my story, that those of you who are watching that's up here, you'll see the citation on where that story appeared, the CDC claim. It was on WebMD. So this is what you'll get. I mean, let's not even call it national health insurance compulsory plan and so forth. Let's just call it, the medical police state, the medical slave camp. That's what they're lining everybody up for. The next chapter. Here's the next chapter. So I'm boggled. I'm boggled by this. Even though I've reported on it one way or another for the last 30 years, I'm boggled by it. It's just unbelievable. It's all part and parcel of what you get when you submit yourself without knowledge or consent to the medical system. Yeah, sure, I'll go along for the ride. Sounds good. More research, more medical treatment, more money for research treatment. Yeah, all of that sounds great. Sure, I'm on board. Who wouldn't be? Well, somebody who's smart would be. See you after the break. Jon Rappoport. Jon Rappoport back for the last segment in the fourth hour at Infowars. So everything that I've been talking about here over the last 45 minutes, the medical stuff, it's not happening in major media. You're not reading these stories day after day. My God, look at what's happening here. And we've got reporters on the story, and we're getting confessions from people, medically caused death. We never realized it before. Nothing, absolutely nothing. These are the people who are talking about fake news. These are the people who are saying, oh, we're very worried about fake news. We have the actual news. We are the actual people. These other people out there are pretenders, see? That's what they're saying. Pretenders. Yeah. So this guy named Trump comes along, and I don't care what you think of Trump, one way or another. But what happened was he stimulated on purpose and quite naturally in his own way a backlash, serious backlash against the media by simply saying, whenever he wanted to, you're an idiot. This is a terrible interview. You're all a bunch of idiots. And all of a sudden, people began waking up and saying, well, that's what I thought. That's what I've been thinking. This is why I've been throwing things at the TV screen for the last 10 years. All of a sudden, people are waking up all over the place, regardless of his platform, non-platform, his personality, what you think of him, whatever. It was a spontaneous combustion, you see. He just robbed what I thought, this guy Trump. I was the one who first realized that these media people are insane. Remember, honey? I told you that 5 years ago. Yeah. Now you got millions and millions of people saying, thinking in a much more positive and aggressive way, yeah, the media has been lying to us all along. They're the fake news people. And now the major media come back with this lame meme about the pretenders who pretend they're giving you the news. Well, I just gave you actual news, medical news for the last 40 minutes that you'll never get from any major media outlet in the world. It'll never happen. Never. Never has happened. Never is happening. Never will happen. You'll never get it. I just gave it to you here on Infowars. And they're saying that we're pretenders? They're the ones who are, through avoidance, omission, twisting, destroying, stepping on, tainting, all of their daily operations to give you this garbage pile that they call the news, the real news, the authentic news. Yes, I'm Anderson Cooper, and this is the only place where you'll get the real story. These are the people are the fakers. See? Well, we know now. The whole game is up. Millions, hundreds of millions, I think at this point, are ready to pull the switch on fake news. The seesaw has tilted. The game is not over. By any means, they have the money. They have a great deal of influence. But we're winning. Don't go away. Don't stop now. Let's have the real news actually win. Thank you very much. See you in a couple of weeks.